almost all aspects of the people's daily lives. He, however, said, like many other countries across the globe, the growth and development of the internet is accompanied by significant challenges.
We are witnessing a rise in threats posed by cyber criminals and cyber terrorists who use the internet to cause apprehension. We are also observing a surge in the use of internet and social media for propagation of hate speech, fake news, subversive messages, and incitement of violence, which played a part in heightening tensions, causing unrest, and spurring widespread acts of looting and destruction across the country.
The president said some global events, such as rapid emergence of new technologies, the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the advent of 5G technology, have further widened the scope and diversification of these cyber threats. He therefore commended the National Security Advisor and other stakeholders for the remarkable work done towards strengthening the development of cybersecurity in Nigeria.
The Office of the National Security Advisor is to continue to coordinate the efforts of all stakeholders to ensure that our internet and cyberspace are used for the enhancement of national security and economic progression. Together, we can pave the way for the creation of new opportunities to usher Nigeria into a bright future driven by prosperous cyberspace and digital economy.
The president made a case for the young and vibrant population of Nigeria to utilize its God-given potential to exploit the benefits of the current internal revolution towards enhancing the nation's economic progression and improving national security. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
In the meantime, issues relating to security, governance and political developments in the Eastern Heartland were brought to the front burner as President Muhammadu Buhari granted audience to Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State. Adamu Sambo also has that one.
This is the second time in the year 2021 President Muhammadu Buhari is formally engaging Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State. The latest was for the governor to express appreciation to the president for supporting his efforts at restoring and maintaining peace and stability in Olu Zone following the breakdown of law and order.
It was on my invitation that the military came, and I did that because I know the situation was beyond the local arrangement. We needed help, and the help was given to us. Those that came, through their intelligence, identified where these people were, and I can tell you, all the people arrested, all the rifles recovered are intact. The people are under interrogation. Not even one soldier or one of those militants died in the process. And as I speak to you, the situation has come down to normal. People are now going about their businesses, and those caught will soon be charged to court. Let anybody politicize it, but I have a responsibility to protect the lives of my people. God knows, if I have the opportunity to see any man who is taking lives, I will confront the person head on.
The governor also used the opportunity to clear the air on the reported arrest and detention of Senator Rochas Okorocha, saying he has no hand whatsoever in what has befallen the former governor of the state.
You recall that before I became the governor, the head of administration set up a judicial panel of inquiry to look into accusations and allegations of lands, converting government lands to personal property, and then removing private lands from individuals and giving to other individuals. The judicial panel of inquiry, chaired by a judge, met and concluded their job, and their white paper has since been raised. You know, institutions, the agencies that are involved with implementation are doing their job. I am not directly involved. It is a position taken by government. There's a difference between governor and government. The government of Imo State sealed their property. And I think that if there's anything anybody considers that is not right, the person should go to court to address the issue, not to take laws and or take to self-help. Government is a serious business, and I'm very serious. But people should know the difference between being a governor and the government decisions and policies. And we took oath to protect our laws. We shouldn't be part of any arrangement to violate our laws.
Governor Uzodimma promised to remain unrelenting in his efforts at protecting and defending the interests of Imolites. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Speaking of growing the economy now, President Muhammadu Buhari says his administration's ambitious policy of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty did not come by accident. Rather, it was a deliberate undertaking that will be pursued with remarkable grit and determination. Exchanging views with members of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council, the President, however, maintains that the country requires a poverty reduction strategy that will usher in a rapid, sustained and inclusive economic growth. Here is Adamu Sambu with that report.
The Presidential Economic Advisory Council, led by Professor Doyin Salami, was in the State House to present its report on National Poverty Reduction Strategy. President Muhammadu Buhari requested the Council to submit the document containing implementation plan to the Federal Executive Council on Wednesday in furtherance of its consultative process for national growth and development. He agreed with the Council that a program of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty is challenging but achievable. The President wondered what became of the nation in the past, that with all the resources available to it, no such coordinated and holistic agenda on poverty reduction was ever contemplated. The chairman of the Council, Professor Doyin Salami, had told the President that the National Poverty Reduction Plan has so far gained an overwhelming approval of stakeholders from across the country and beyond. He welcomed Nigeria's exit from recession, but cautioned that the strength of the economic growth must be driven in a way that it will overtake population growth. The poverty reduction strategy, as presented, requires the nation to aim at raising agricultural productivity towards addressing the wide disparity among states and the regions in the distribution of poverty, ensuring macroeconomic stability and promoting industrialization. The strategy, he explained, benefited from extensive consultations amongst all stakeholders in both the public and private sectors towards achieving ownership and sustainability. Professor Salami said this is the first time efforts are being intensified towards consolidating on the achievements of the past and avoiding past mistakes. Poverty reduction, he emphasized, must not be left to the federal government alone, and suggested the setting up of a National Council on Poverty Reduction, a proposal accepted by the President. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Well, developing a sustainable food system has never been more urgent and important than now due to the challenges of population growth, poverty and COVID-19. This was the submission of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the Nigeria UN Food System Summit Inception Dialogue. Haman Jabani reports.
The Inception National Dialogue is aimed at identifying food system challenges from multiple perspectives that will provide unique opportunity to re-evaluate how to engage, manage, govern and use food systems effectively for efficient, resilient and sustainable food production. This is what Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo believes can resolve the problem of malnutrition and unhealthy diet and create unique threat to health.
Also questions around ensuring environmentally sustainable production practices, creating empowering jobs and livelihoods, and building capacities to ensure sustainable and healthy food systems. Now, these issues require expertise and experience, but also the views of those who will literally be at the receiving end of these plans.
Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, who spoke extensively on the national policy on food and nutrition, said the food system is part of the government plan to achieve Mid-Term Development Plan 2050.
This is happening through the adoption of adoption, but also domestication of policies and costed strategic plans, which emphasize increased reliance on domestic funding and a well-coordinated multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder approach comprising of government, civil society organizations, private sectors, as well as donors.
The United Nations says the dialogue will also enhance food security and sustainability of eco-based agriculture and food system around the world by 2030. The theme of the Inception Dialogue is Sustainable Food System through Enable Agricultural Value Chain in Nigeria. Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
In other news, the Senate has confirmed 5 nominees, including the immediate past service chiefs, as non-career ambassadors designate. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports that the confirmation followed the consideration of the screening report presented by the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs.
The announcement of presidential request for the confirmation of the nomination of Haliru Baba for appointment as the Controller General of the Nigeria Correctional Service preceded business of the day. The first order of the day was the consideration of the report of the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs on the screening of 5 non-career ambassadors designate. It recommended the confirmation of General Abayomi Olani Shakin from Ekiti State, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, Borno State, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, Bauchi, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, Cross River, and Air Vice Marshal Mohammed Usman from Kano State as non-career ambassadors designate.
Our appeal to the executive arm of government is to make sure that we utilize their experiences as service chiefs, as military men.
Senator Stephen Ode drew the attention of the Senate to the urgent need for the federal government to collaborate with state governments to revive the Safe School initiative in Nigeria.
Invasion of school premises, as well as kidnap of students and teachers for ransom, can be contained and defeated through the full implementation of Safe School initiative.
And we all know that some of these schools, if you have seen them, they lack fence.
Education, the 2 committees, basic and tertiary, to look into what happened to the funding of the Safe School initiative.
The former British Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, came to Nigeria and said there was $20 million. That was for the Safe School initiative. Our committee should find out the implementation that took place and what happened.
The Federal University Lafia Establishment Bill, sponsored by Senator Umaru Tanko Almakura, and the Federal College of Crop Science and Food Technology Lere Kaduna State Establishment Bill, sponsored by Senator Suleiman Abdul Kwari, passed second reading.
This is intended to facilitate the clinical training of medical students.
3 bills passed first reading, including the Witness Protection and Management Establishment Bill. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
In staying with the legislature, the House of Representatives has confirmed the presidential nominees for appointment as service chiefs. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports on this and other features at House Plenary Tuesday.
The confirmation of Major General Lucky Rabo as Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Ibrahim Atahiru as Chief of Army Staff, Rear Admiral Awul Gambu as Chief of Naval Staff, and Air Vice Marshal Isiaka Mao as Air Force Chief followed consideration and approval of the recommendations of the Special Ad Hoc Committee set up by the House to screen the service chiefs.
We questioned them on various topics. Mr. Chairman, we found them worthy.
The House thereafter commiserated with the Nigerian Air Force over the loss of 7 officers as a result of an air crash.
Send a delegation to the Chief of Air Staff to condole him and condole Mr. President of the ugly incident that happened.
Meanwhile, plenary has urged security agencies to intensify efforts towards the rescue of abductees at Government Science College, Kagara, as raised by Representative Unyime Idem. Other features at plenary include the adoption of a resolution to investigate National Primary Healthcare Development Agency over allegations that the agency breached provisions of the Procurement Act in the implementation of capital projects captured in the 2020 budget, and the call on the federal government to reopen the Warri Airport considering its economic relevance, as moved by Representative Afe Obe-Irakpefe.
Integrating the airport is viable and still meet up with very necessary precautionary safety measures, especially during this COVID-19 epidemic.
The constitutional amendment bill sponsored by Representative Garbadetti, seeking liberalization of minimum wage to allow all tiers of government determine wages for their workers, generated debate.
Of item from the exclusive legislative list to concurrent, particularly now that the clamor and agitation for true federalism and devolving power from the center to the federative units.
We are not yet there to allow states to go and determine. Some will tell you what is the percentage, which is true, what is the percentage, but then workforce in Nigeria and minimum wage should be allowed as it is in the Constitution.
Mr. Speaker, will be giving them license to hide under the law of ability to say, I am sending the workers for a 3-month vacation to work without salary.
We allow this bill to pass the second reading, but we should put a caveat that no state in this country will be allowed to pay less than 30,000.
Also debated was the bill from Representative Benjamin Kalu, which seeks removal of prisons from executive list to enable establishment of correctional centers under the concurrent list. The House passed for second reading a bill sponsored by Representative Hassan Al-Araba, seeking the repeal of some sections of Nigerian Correctional Service Act to enable parole for persons serving life sentences for murder. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
The federal government's continued commitment to placing 50,000 Nigerians on HIV treatment yearly is a feat that no past government in Nigeria has achieved. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, said this at the inaugural NACA Stewardship Day to reflect and provide future projections towards ending HIV as a public health emergency in Nigeria by 2030. Basi Taipang was there.
The National Agency for the Control of AIDS, NACA, established in 2007, has through its past and present leadership led the national response in HIV through notable milestones towards a more controlled epidemic and ensuring more persons are placed on treatment.
Yes, I am bold to say that this agency has achieved so much in its mission to the admiration of government, and global targets for prevention, testing, and treatment are being met.
The 2018 population-based HIV and AIDS survey is another milestone that led to the rebasing of the HIV epidemic in the country from a prevalence rate of 5.8% to 1.4%.
We have added net on treatment about 625,000 people. But if you look at what was added in the last 4 years in this administration, between 2017 to 2020, we have added almost the same number we have added 10 years before that time.
And despite these successes, the HIV response in Nigeria, experts say, requires the support of all stakeholders through shared responsibility, stronger partnerships, responsible implementation, and accountability. Basi Taipa, NTA News.
Still ahead, more reports on intelligence gathering and tackling insecurity. Stay with us.
It's a happy feeling when receiving all of the love coming from family.
So many recipes, creating memories every day and every night. Bonding families,
yeah. 60 years of joy, so much love, so much value. Quality, golden penny is you. Golden penny is me. Golden penny is at the heart of the family. Golden penny is you. at the heart of the family.
The chairman of Northern State Governors Forum and Governor of Plateau, Right Honorable Samuel Bakola Long, cordially invites governors of the 19 northern states, chairmen of traditional councils of the region, invited members of the National Assembly from the north, heads of security agencies and other invited stakeholders to a two-day meeting of the forum. Date, Thursday 25th to Friday 26th February 2021. Special guest of honor is Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Host, Governor Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, Governor of Kaduna State. Venue, Sir Kashim Ibrahim House, Kaduna. Time, 10 a.m. daily. Straight COVID-19 protocols will apply at the meeting, while attendance is strictly by invitation. Announcer, Professor Danladi Abokatu, Secretary to the Government of Plateau State and Chairman, Northern Governors Forum Secretariat.
I've been looking at you from across the way, and I think about you almost every day. Now I think that I must have a crush on you. I hope that you feel it too.
It's the natural ingredients and rich flavor of Knorr that brings people together.
Nigeria is too big a nation to have just a few people making decisions. We all have to get involved. We all have to be heard. People always talk like there are two Nigeria, the government and the people, when in actuality the people are the government. Fixing Nigeria isn't a one-man program. It is all of ours collectively. Therefore, we must all get involved by participating actively in the system that brings forth good leadership. I would like to see a Nigeria where the bond we share is stronger than our tribal, gender, age, class, and religious differences. A Nigeria where everybody's voice counts. Get involved. Register now to join the All Progressives Congress. I am Governor Yahaya Bello of Kogi State, and I approve this message.
Hello, madam. Would you like to join us on this mission?
Yes, but how?
Just one question for you. How do you keep your toilet clean?
I use regular detergent and bleach for washing and removing yellow stains. I have been using it for years.
Oh, madam, the regular detergents and bleach are used for washing clothes. To disinfect your toilet properly, you need Harpic 10X. It is specially made for germs and stains remover. Harpic sticker formula settles on stains and gives 10 times better cleaning compared to regular detergent and bleach.
Wow! Now I'm convinced, Helen Paul.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that she's part of the mission, the next house is yours.
John, you can use our toilet now.
Ew! My mommy said I should always use a toilet that is cleaned with Hypo toilet cleaner. James will bite my bone.
John, what's the problem?
Use Hypo Toilet Cleaner. Introducing the new and affordable Hypo Toilet Cleaner. Kills germs and deodorizes your toilet. Hypo.
Thanks for staying with us. A 14-member ministerial task force has been inaugurated to take charge of driving the digital switchover process. Inaugurating the task force at a media briefing in Abuja, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed, who is chairman of the task force, restated that the process is hinged on massive job creation and huge revenue generation for the nation's economy and investors alike. Anthony Forson reports.
February 23rd marks 3 years exactly when the last DSO was launched in Osun State, having taken off in Jos Plateau State, Abuja, Kwara, Kaduna and Enugu. With the Federal Executive Council's approval of 9.4 billion naira for the process and 31 more states to cover, Lai Mohammed says there will be no excuses.
We have no more excuses for not rapidly rolling out the DSO across the country. We will pursue a private sector DSO, that there will be no more subsidies, either for set-top boxes or signal carriage, and that the process must be self-sustaining.
With an outlook of a massive job creation, mechanisms have been put in place to maximize opportunities available as well as protect investors and key players in the industry.
We have made necessary changes in the broadcast code to protect local jobs and production. We have started the process of introducing world-class audience measurement and media monitoring to deliver on our potential $1 billion TV and online advertising revenue market. And now we will ensure that the DSO ecosystem delivers value to the economy.
In manufacturing alone, between 40 to 50,000 jobs will be created. Television production as well, the minister said, about 200,000 jobs will be created, while film production, on the other hand, can create 350 to 400,000 jobs as Nigeria finally grows the capacity of producers to meet quality demand of full indigenous content creation. When the DSO is fully completed, every home can boast of internet connectivity as the free spectrum much more monetizable by the mobile and data companies, the minister added. Advertising again, the minister said, will have a huge support base for the nation's GDP dictates. The Lai Mohammed-led task force has Joseph Muta as secretary. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
Academics in the nation's colleges of education are meeting in Abuja with a view to uplifting the system to greater heights. This is at a 3-day all-stakeholders meeting at the instance of the Colleges of Education Staff Union, with the Minister of Education Adamu in attendance. Abdullahi Musa Suleja reports.
And arguably, development of every nation depends on the functionality of its education. For the teachers whose responsibility is training of teachers, the subsector needs to be revamped for optimal performance. House Committee Chairman on Tertiary Education and Services Suleiman Guru pointed out some areas for consideration.
We can register our grievances without disrupting academic calendar. The summit will be in consonance with the objectives of the education roadmap. You in colleges of education must make your presence felt by training educated personnel to go to our school. College of Education is very, very significant in educational development of this nation.
The Colleges of Education Staff Union (COESU), in collaboration with the National Commission for Colleges of Education (NCCE) and Committee of Provost of Colleges of Education, who put together the summit, are optimistic of positive results that will move the system out of its present status.
So we want to see what we can do, harness the opinion of stakeholders on what the colleges can also do to be able to fund themselves adequately.
A communique is expected at the end of the summit. Abdullahi Musa Sleja, NTA News.
The United Nations says it is amplifying on more multilateral engagements on climate action that will create economic corridors and provide jobs in developing countries. While holding talks with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Onyama, the United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed said the biggest global body is leveraging on challenges and opportunities by COVID-19 for a transition to greener economies.
Infrastructure that is more sustainable, that is less damaging to the environment. It will mean looking at our energy mix. How can we move in a just transition to solar power, to hydropower, and I think a lot of investments have been made in Nigeria.
As a developing country, we're also very keen on UN reform, and that's another area that we're also looking at.
The visiting UN envoy commended Nigeria for the response in tackling COVID-19 with concentrated approach to health, education and the economy, which will speed up attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. And turning to security matters now, troops of Operation Lafia Dole Tuesday afternoon recaptured New Marti from the Boko Haram ISWAP terrorists. A statement by the Director of Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Mohammed Yarima, says the operations to free the town met a lot of resistance from the criminals who implanted several improvised explosive devices. Consequently, 14 terrorists were neutralized, 2 gun trucks and vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices destroyed, while several arms and equipment captured. Brigadier General Yerima notes that the Chief of Army Staff, Major General Ibrahim Atahiru, had on Sunday, the 21st of February, visited Dikwa and gave the troops marching orders to recapture New Marti within 48 hours. And former President Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida and General Abdulsalami Abubakar have spoken on ways to rescue Kagara students and put an end to banditry nationwide. They were speaking to correspondent Hamisu Urugu in Mina.
Safety of the children is what is utmost. Not we want them to come out safely, without anybody being hurt in the process. So any measure they take is perfectly okay.
But the long term, because the thing is pervasive, it's across all the parts of the country.
In the long term, it requires a lot of planning and thinking. It is something that can be done, and I believe they are talking among themselves, the law enforcement agencies, the police, the military, are all working together, from what I was told, trying to map out a new strategy on how to deal with the situation.
And a lot, of course, depend on the government, both the state government and the federal government. And during my discussion with the governors, as they came, I have urged them to take their responsibility seriously and to stop all squabbles between themselves. And also on the federal government level, we are talking to them, we are advising them on what we see that needs to be done. Make sure that we have enough armed forces and police who are deployed.
In the meantime, the Nigeria Governors Forum has harped on the need for effective coordination and intelligence gathering in identifying the root cause of insecurity across the country with the aim of nipping it in the bud. Chairman of the forum and Ekiti State Governor Kayode Fayemi stated this when he led other governors to commiserate with the government and people of Niger State over the incessant security challenges bedeviling the state. Hussein Musa has the details.
The aim of the visit to Niger State is to identify with the struggle of the government and the people at this solemn period. The 5-man delegation led by the chairman of the forum and Ekiti State Governor Kayode Fayemi maintained issues of insecurity cannot be tackled in isolation, stressed the need for all stakeholders to collectively demonstrate resilience in the fight against the menace.
Every part of our country is caught up in this. Can only defeat terrorism collectively.
There is a failure in the system, and if the failure is the system, that is why you see people carrying illegal arms everywhere. That is not to say that the carrying of illegal arms is legal.
Governor Abubakar Sani Bello said the visit by his colleagues is a morale booster and serves as an indication that the state is not alone in this battle.
We should not subject our school children, our children that have chosen a path by going to school but are being intimidated by some unscrupulous elements.
The governors of Kwara, Sokoto, Nasarawa and Plateau states, who were among the entourage, also visited the 2 former heads of state, General Ibrahim Babangida and General Abdulsalami Abubakar, at their Top Hill residence. In Mina, Hussein Musa, NTA News.
The Nigeria Police Force and the Police Service Commission are strengthening capacity to establish a strong platform that will improve operations to secure the country. To this end, a one-day retreat has been held for top management of the force and the Commission. Francis Form reports.
Recruitment into the Nigeria Police Force has generated controversies between the organizations. Now, both have come together to fine-tune and foster good working relationship and understanding.
It is our expectation that we will leverage on the understanding that will evolve from this retreat towards building a resilient police institution and a strong police service commission that is bonded together by the overriding need to collaborate in the interest of our internal security in the country.
And whatever the challenges of the past, that we all agree and take decisions on ensuring that from now on, the relationship between the two bodies should be one.
Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami harped on synergy and professional understanding to meet set goals.
My presence in the office of the Inspector General of Police and the presence of Police Service Commission in the office of the Inspector General of Police are all targeted at a common understanding, which is building the desired collaboration for the success of the government.
The retreat is expected to strengthen the capacity of the management of the Police Service Commission and the Nigeria Police Force as they perfect plans to reverse the challenges of insecurity. Francis from NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari joins family and friends of former Governor of Kwara State, Chief Cornelius Olatunji Adebayo, to celebrate his 80th birthday, which comes up tomorrow, February the 24th, sending warm felicitations to the senator who also served the country as Minister of Communications. The president believes Chief Adebayo's strength of character, discipline, and visionary leadership set him apart for responsibilities and great heights at a young age, starting out as a lecturer, commissioner, before gaining the national spotlight with distinguished service at every stage. While praying for good health and longer life for Chief Adebayo, the president urges him to always share his wealth of experience, knowledge and wisdom with younger leaders. Time now to join Dotun in Lagos for the next set of reports. It's yours now, Dotun.
Thank you, Cyril. Between December 2020 and now, the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, has responded to 114 major incidents and 500 minor ones. This staggering statistics is propelling a change in emergency management, as premium will now be placed on mitigation through sensitization. Director General of the agency at a simulation exercise in Lagos explained that this approach is cost efficient while exploring alternatives at reducing response time to emergencies. Michael Olaleye reports.
This is not a real-life incident. It is a simulation exercise depicting a tanker explosion in the middle of the ever-intense Lagos traffic. With hundreds of passengers trapped in the accident, the difficult situation before emergency responders is how to save lives without escalating the fire. The response to this emergency situation no doubt is prompt, but can the agency replicate same in a real-life situation?
With new equipment, we are giving the team assurance that they have good tools to work with. Not only that, we are allowing them to use modern equipment to respond to emergency. And with that, they will be able to respond not only effectively, efficiently.
Although the simulation exercise is to show level of preparedness for proper disaster management, but to the Lagos State government, it is the demonstration of the premium placed on lives.
The lives and property of all Lagosians is dear to this administration. It therefore becomes imperative that our agencies get all the support they require in the dispensation of their duties.
We'll be having cadets in the local government, so that in every local government or LCDA, we'll have ready-made officers, so that when a disaster happens in any local government, we already have ready-made grassroots foot soldiers on ground, apart from the ones coming from the headquarters.
The institutionalization of a robust emergency response agency, stakeholders believe, is key at reducing accidents and other avoidable disasters. In Lagos, Michael Olaleye, NTA News.
The news that Nigeria exited yet another recession has rekindled the hope of many Nigerians. Business experts who spoke on this new development believe it will revive the desire of investors to contribute to the nation's GDP. Abolade Salami has details.
The moment Nigeria's GDP growth contracted for second consecutive quarter by minus 3.62% in the third quarter of 2020, government deployed all its arsenal to the direction of recovery. While the country battles with ravaging global pandemic to flatten the curve, economic players embarked on an aggressive strategy towards ensuring the implementation of economic policies and the federal government's sustainability plan aimed at stimulating growth.
In addition, we sought to stimulate economy activities through targeted interventions in critical sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, electricity, and construction.
As a responsive government whose agenda is to develop all key sectors of the economy for economic gains, it realized the urgent need to diversify from a mono economy to boost the non-oil sector.
At the same time, measures are being taken by the authorities to improve our non-oil exports and other sources of foreign exchange.
But from the figures we have seen, we are beginning to see some improvements, some positive developments around our GDP. Now we are in the positive trajectory of 0.11%. Although still very fragile, but it's also indicative of the fact that things are moving in the right direction.
While the federal government proactive steps have paid off in reawakening the economy through the non-oil sector, data from the National Bureau of Statistics reveals that major drivers of Nigeria's exit out of recession in the fourth quarter of 2020 were crop production at 3.68%, crude petroleum and natural gas at 8.2%, trade at 14.9%, telecommunications and information services at 12.2%, and real estate at 5.7%. Thus, 5 subsectors recorded significant improvements in their real GDP growth numbers. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
And that's it from here. Let's now take a break. Network News continues shortly.
We're just having a good time. And I'm feeling so good now.
Where you did? I dey come now. You go see me now. You go.
Call your party and everybody, yeah. Make we start to the corner.
Where you did now? You go see me now.
Everybody they dance.
Where you did now? You go see me now. I'm fine, sir. Give me a surprise.
Hey, where you at? We go Mexico, we go Jericho, I'm gonna let you go.
Hello, how are you?
Tell us one truth nobody knows.
I like to steam it from my mama's pot.
Glow, the best data plans in town. Dial *777#.
Introducing evaporated milk that contains all the nourishment of milk, including high calcium, 7B vitamins, vitamin D3, phosphorus, magnesium, and 50% less fat. It comes in 3-pack sizes, and the 60-gram pack is only 50 naira.
Hollandia Slim Evaporated Milk. All the nourishment of milk, 50% less fat.
Get your limited edition packs now before the final whistle blows.
We're back in Abuja now. President Muhammadu Buhari this evening spoke with Muhammadu Yusufu, the president of Niger Republic, congratulating him on the peaceful conduct of the runoff elections in the West African state. In a telephone conversation, President Buhari also congratulated President Yusufu on the provisional outcome of the elections, in which the candidate of the ruling party, Mr. Bazoum Mohammed, of the Party for Democracy and Socialism, Tereya, won with 55.75% against the former president, Mr. Mahamani Usmani, of the RDR Chenji. President Buhari joined international observers, including the ECOWAS, the African Union, the United Nations missions, and others, in expressing satisfaction with the conduct of the elections. He urged all aggrieved persons to follow the due process of the law and to avoid instigation of violence and other disruptive processes. Amid the economic downturn, Zenith Bank PLC has announced an impressive rise of 5% gross earnings, amounting to 696.5 billion naira for the year ended December 31st, 2020, from 662.3 billion naira reported in the previous year. Benny Adams reports.
According to the bank's audited financial results for the 2020 financial year presented to the Nigerian Stock Exchange on Tuesday, the group recorded 8% growth in non-interest income from 232.1 billion naira in 2019 to 251.7 billion naira in 2020. And a 1% increase in interest income from 415.6 billion naira in 2019 to 420.8 billion naira in 2020. Profit before tax also increased by 5%, growing from 243.3 billion naira to 255.9 billion naira in the current year. Interest expense reduced from 148.5 billion in 2019 to 121.1 billion naira in 2020, significantly increasing the net interest income from 267.0 billion in 2019 to 299.7 billion in 2020. Retail deposits grew by 612.7 billion naira from 1.11 trillion to 1.72 trillion year on year, while savings balances significantly grew by 88% year on year and closed at 1.16 trillion naira. The report says the retail drive, coupled with low interest environment, helped reduce the cost of funding from 3.0% to 2.1%. The group also increased corporate customer deposits of 25% to close at 5.34 trillion naira, driving growth in market share. In a demonstration of its commitment to its shareholders, the bank has announced a proposed final dividend payout of 2.70 naira per share, bringing the total dividend to 3.00 naira per share. Zenith Bank is the Bankers' Bank of the year 2020, Best Bank in Nigeria in the Global Finance World's Best Banks Awards 2020, and Best Corporate Governance Financial Services Africa 2020 by the Ethical Boardroom. Also, the bank emerged as the most valuable banking brand in Nigeria, among other awards. In Abuja, Benny Adams, NTA News.
This just coming in now, the General Officer Commanding 7th Division of the Nigerian Army, Major General Abdul Khalifa Ibrahim, has confirmed an attempted infiltration of suspected Boko Haram terrorists into Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, Tuesday evening. The terrorists launched unspecified number of motor bombs, throwing some parts of Maiduguri into chaos and confusion. However, troops of the division have already repelled the attack and the situation is under control. That just came to us at this moment. Speaking of an attempted infiltration of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, by terrorists. However, that attack has been neutralized and Maiduguri is safe again. The Corps Marshal, Federal Road Safety Corps, Dr. Boboe Oyemi, has directed commanding officers across all formations of the Corps to commence immediate clampdown on rickety vehicles plying Nigerian roads, which often break down and result in obstruction of traffic flow. The clampdown is an integral part of rejigged efforts by the Corps in the year 2021 to further reduce road traffic crashes across the country. The public is therefore called to assist the Corps by reporting any rickety vehicle sighted on the road to the spokesperson through the FRSC toll-free numbers 122 or tune in to the National Traffic Radio 107.1 FM to report same or any other contravention seen on the road. Time to take another quick break. News continues shortly.
To the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works. Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works.
Sports now, and here is Samuel Johnson.
The Super Falcons of Nigeria recorded their third straight win at the ongoing Turkish Women's Cup with a 9-0 victory at the expense of their arch-rivals from Equatorial Guinea. This is the third win for the team under coach Randy Waldrum. Still on football, Governor Okeze Ikpeazu of Abia State has congratulated Eyimba Football Club on the team's qualification for the group stage of the 2020-2021 CAF Confederations Cup. The governor and other stakeholders charged the team not to be scared of the group its draw, but to see it as a springboard to bring the trophy home.
They will make us proud. Not the first time, they will do it again.
There is a big chances of them bringing the trophy back to this country again.
From the Nigeria Professional Football League, Week 12 matches continue on Wednesday as Eyimba hosts Akwa United. Kwara United will trade tackles with Abia Warriors, while Sunshine Stars will be the guest of Kano Pillars, among other matches. In another development, Nigerian bobsled and skeleton athletes and their coaches are on their way to their South Korean camp ahead of the Winter Olympics slated for Beijing, China in 2022.
So going there is to have the actual feel of the bobsled and the ice.
I personally am fully prepared, to get into the ice and then get the job started.
The technical director of the Federation, Dr. Shion Adigun, who expressed gratitude to the NOC for its support, said the team has a long way to go to qualify. With sports update, Samuel Johnson, NTA News.
The longest-serving OPEC minister, Sheikh Ahmed Zaki Yamani, is dead. The former Saudi Arabian energy minister held the position for 24 years, making him the longest-serving oil minister in OPEC. He helped direct the 1973 oil embargo with counterparts in other Arab oil exporters and Iran, managed a series of production cuts in 1973, and halted supplies to the US and other countries. In a letter to Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, Energy Minister of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, OPEC Secretary General Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo, on behalf of the OPEC, extends condolences to his family and friends. Barkindo says the late Yamani was the leading light in OPEC during his eventual years. And Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has described the passing of Oba Sikiru Atonda Woliola, the Oluko of Ajashepo, a first-class traditional ruler in Kwara State, as a great loss, not just to his family and community, but indeed to the entire state. In a statement signed by Segun Adeyemi, Special Assistant to the Minister, it said, the Oluko will be sorely missed for his wisdom, love of the people, and the rare leadership he provided during his memorable reign. Lai Mohammed expressed his deepest condolences to Governor Abdurrahman Abdurazak of Kwara State, the Emir of Ilori Alhaji Ibrahim Sulu Gambari, and the late Oba's immediate and extended family, friends, and associates. And that concludes Network News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Cyril Stober. Good night.
NTA News. When the news breaks, we mend it and present it without blemish. NTA News, authentic and authoritative.
This is the network service of the NTA.
The second wave of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic is upon us.
To safeguard lives of our people, government has signed the health protection regulations, which makes wearing a face mask mandatory in public places.
Wear a mask. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Wash your hands regularly with soap and clean water. And use hand sanitizer.
COVID-19 is real. Do not be infected. Do not spread it. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
I bring you wonderful news. The village headmaster is coming back to your screen. Mo wire abi mi o wire.
Teacher ló mọ̀, a fẹ́ lọ wá nǹkan jẹ. Teacher jọ̀wọ́, a fẹ́ lọ wá nǹkan jẹ. Ọmọ onírẹsì ti dé.
Ajebo na better school for Las Gidi. Not be all this on a rugged yes school for Ijabi. I don't know for you.
Second, it's called Oja Village. Kadesi, we no happy at all.
And I know that even you too, you are getting a lot of orders too. Hey, we are trying, shao. Sweep her leg out. She was standing there. Sweep it.
I love you so much.
And how did I give you the impression that I was interested in that position?
50-year anniversary.
You mean anniversary?
I mean, that's why I talk with that now.
Not for me. Not for me because of Pamio.
The broadcast media ecosystem is dynamic and requires continuous training for practitioners to perform optimally. NTA TV College Jos invites relevant officers to the following specially packaged training programs. Intermediate online news reporting skills. Date 1st March to 12th March 2021. 2 weeks. Studio lighting indoor and outdoor. Date 1st March to 5th March 2021. 1 week. Modern trends in broadcast media marketing. Date 15th March to 9th April 2021. 4 weeks. Understanding public service rules and mastering the art of standard minute writing, reports, memoranda, and briefs. Date 15th February to 12th March 2021. 4 weeks. The course fee for the 4-week courses is 100,000 naira per participant. The fee for the 2-week course is 80,000 naira, while the course fee for the 1-week course is 40,000 naira only. Accommodation inclusive. Venue for all the courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA TV College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, Jos. Training you to be the best you want to be.
have you join us for another edition of Dateline 360. I am Omotola Omojola. What is 20,000 naira worth to you? I'm very sure different answers will come in if a means is provided for feedback. While it may appear as a token to some, to the wise and business-minded, 20,000 naira represents capital at hand that could contribute to the growth of a business. Yet someone will ask, what business? Today on the program, we take a cursory look at how the federal government's 20,000 naira cash grant is changing the livelihood of rural women in the country. Stay with us. Closing the gap between the rich and the poor in a country like Nigeria can be challenging, especially with the impact of COVID-19 on small businesses. If consistency is applied to the different social interventions of the federal government, however, the nation may arrive at shore faster than imagined. Ruth Aguele opens this edition with a background to the initiative. She reports that 5,000 women in the FCT will benefit from the social intervention program.
Women are said to be pillars of the family, and when it comes to sustaining small businesses like this, they are solid. Now, to empower rural women, the federal government launched the Rural Women Cash Grant across the country, and the Federal Capital Territory was not left out.
Hadiza Mohammed is 70 years old. She has come all the way from Kwali local government area in the Federal Capital Territory to partake in the federal government's cash grant to be disbursed to rural women. She tells me how crucial this grant will impact her life positively, as it will help her grow her petty trade and take good care of her blind husband. A symbolic moment for these beneficiaries. 5,000 women are drawn from the 6 area councils in the FCT. A one-off cash grant of 20,000 naira each to some of the poorest and most vulnerable women in the territory. A program designed to provide succor towards eliminating extreme poverty in the country is being flagged off by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development.
I have personally witnessed the life-changing experiences of people who lived below the poverty line and those who are vulnerable to shocks. Over 12 million vulnerable households have benefited from the NCIP interventions in the last 5 years. These programs have been structured to respond to peculiarities of different parts of the country, to ensure the right beneficiaries are targeted, and to enhance impact on target beneficiaries. In view of this, President Muhammad Buhari has graciously approved the expansion of the National Social Investment Programs to touch more lives and lift more Nigerians above the poverty breadline.
You will agree with me that the launch of this program is a bold statement by the government. It is reiterating the readiness of this administration to do all that is necessary to join the community of nations to fight the global economic downturn.
The beneficiaries expressed their gratitudes.
And this grant they have given us today, I so much appreciate.
I'll use it for my business. I'll add it into my business for my food mart.
I sell rice, beans and groundnut oil. I thank the ministry for this gesture. May God reward them.
No doubt 20,000 naira is a big deal for these beneficiaries, and the good news is that majority of them are already into petty trades. But for us, we'll keep our eyes on the prize, which is the turnover profits which we expect to yield from this grant. 360 degrees all the way. For Deadline 360, Ruth Aguele.
From Abuja, we go to Lafia, Nasarawa State, where Abigail Bashi reports that small businesses are already experiencing positive impact thanks to the federal government cash grants.
After the disbursement of the 20,000 naira grant to beneficiaries in the Nasarawa State, Nafisatu Adamu, mother of 5, takes advantage of the opportunity in pure water business. And just like the journey of 1,000 miles, Nafisatu attests that her business is steadily progressing and applauds the initiative, which has helped a lot of women to be self-reliant.
I really appreciate for his effort that make us to achieve our aims for the contribution of this money. So really appreciate for our President Muhammadu Buhari. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make him to achieve all his aims that he make to achieve.
Findings show that the cash grant has significantly reduced poverty and positively impacts on beneficiaries' income and nutrition on long and short-term basis.
Other beneficiaries like Fatima Abubakar and Murjanatu Musa in petty trading say the initiative has been impactful, noting that small businesses contribute to the economy.
I have been able to support my family through this business, and I thank President Buhari for the initiative.
Before now, I had some challenges, but after benefiting from this grant, has opened other opportunities for me. To members of the community, the initiative is a welcome development that should be sustained in order to lift many out of poverty.
This program is highly commendable and has impacted the livelihood of the beneficiaries and their families.
2,600 women from 5 local government areas in the Nasarawa State benefited from the initiative, which is meant to promote the social inclusion agenda of President Buhari's administration. In Lafia, Abigail Bashi for Dateline 360.
If you're still in doubt about what 20,000 naira can do, there goes an answer for you. But then, there's more to come. Aminu Umar interacted with some beneficiaries of the grant in Kano State and reports that women whose businesses were shut down following the COVID-19 lockdown are beginning to recover and on the path of economic independence.
Nigerian women are rated high in the global ranking of micro-business ownership. Kano is blessed with enterprising women who contribute to the rating.
Most of these women that benefited from this grant, if you see their capital, most of them is not up to 10,000, and now they have 20,000.
Dahare is one of such women. She lost her husband 3 years ago. She is now the breadwinner and is taking care of 4 children. She sells beans cake, known as kose in Hausa. Her challenge is the capital. The 20,000 naira grant came to her as a boost, and so also Maria Uba, a divorced woman with 10 children under her care.
I own my capital. I can now support others. If it goes well, I assure you, soon I will own a house and drive a car.
Like Dahare, who is a widow and is taking responsibility of raising 4 children, Aisha is also an orphan. She decided to venture into poultry farming, which is now assisting her to support herself with what she needs to go to school. With the support, Aisha is now increasing the level of poultry farming from the limited number which she started with 5, and now she is able to raise at least 50. With this grant, Aisha's target will be 100 and above.
I want to encourage government to continue in this direction, especially for the fact that it was done fairly. It was given to the right people.
To build the capacity of all 8,000 beneficiaries, Kano State is to organize training on how best to utilize the capital and sustain their businesses.
Because if you give them 20,000 and they don't know how to utilize it, it will be a waste. But as I told you, most of these women were in a business where they usually have some business, one business or the other.
With consistency from the beneficiaries, constant supervision and training, the program would have the desired multiplier effect on the economy. Amin Umar, reporting for Deadline 360.
Tales of commendation comes from Taraba State, where Madeline Matthew Bello says beneficiaries of the grant say the initiative has positively touched their lives.
The cash grant given to rural women December last year is one of the numerous federal government social investment programs to cushion the effect of COVID-19 pandemic and enhance the livelihood of rural women across the country, especially the vulnerable and less privileged members of the society. Some of the beneficiaries of the federal government intervention in Taraba State appreciated the gesture, adding that they used the money in establishing small-scale businesses which uplifted their economic status and enhanced their livelihood.
We thank the federal government for the grant, as it has helped us in establishing businesses that is assisting us and our families through paying our children's school fees and feeding.
We are grateful. We thank the government. May God bless them. Stakeholders commended the federal government initiative, which according to them has significantly reduced poverty and idleness among rural women in Taraba State, and pleaded for the sustenance of the program. Taraba State Commissioner of Women Affairs and Child Development said 250 rural women benefited from the cash grant, adding that the women have all invested the 20,000 naira in businesses that will yield interest.
Let this business bring deliverance to their home. Let it be able to pay their children's school fees. Let this business give them self-reliance or self-confidence in the society, that they can no longer be reducing voice, give me, please help me, please do that. If they are busy doing their things by themselves, then we will know the importance of the money.
According to the commissioner, Taraba State government has so far trained over 4,000 youths and women in entrepreneurship to complement federal government efforts in reducing poverty and idleness in the country. Taraba State, with greater percentage of its population residing in rural areas, stand a better chance of benefiting from the program. For 360, Madeline Matthew Bello.
Now, apart from supporting the businesses of the beneficiaries who are rural women for self-sustainability, one of the primary objectives of the one-off cash grant by the federal government is to help revive commercial activities in the states post-COVID-19. Yemi Dalimo finds out how this grant is helping rural women in Ogun State, as well as how it has helped the economic growth of the state.
Mufuli Oladeinde, a 56-year-old woman and petty trader, sells fried meat at Agoku area of Abeokuta. For many years, she has been in this business with no help forthcoming to expand the business. Then she was lucky to receive one-off cash grant of 20,000 naira under the federal government cash grants to rural women. Mufuli Oladeinde, who was grateful to the federal government for this unique support, spent the money for the expansion of her business, which she admitted has increased her profits.
Something interesting about the beneficiaries of the grant in Ogun State is genuine determination expressed and put into action. Within a week of receiving the grant, they are already maximizing the opportunity to expand their means of livelihood. An example of this, Madam Mufuli Oladeinde.
I thank the federal government for this initiative to support our business.
Now with the 20,000 naira I receive, I include selling drinks to my business.
One of the coordinators of the program in Ogun State, Francis Ademosun, appreciated the federal government for introducing such a relief program in taking rural women out of poverty.
When you sum up the total amount of money that came in within that period, it's over 1 billion at 20,000 to our people. And I want to believe that that money that is revolving within the state is going to assist the rural women, particularly those who do not even have, who do not have much to use as their base.
The grant of 20,000 naira, which targets the poorest and most vulnerable women in the society, according to an economist, Jare Oyeshola, is not insignificant in expanding the capital base of individuals if well managed.
But business is not really about money. So 20,000 can do something in the life of a business. For example, there are quite a number of products that are available for free in rural area, and using 20,000 to transport them from that rural area to where it's needed in the urban centers could yield a lot of money.
The cash grant of 20,000 naira each to beneficiaries who are rural women, among other social protection programs by the federal government, is aimed at boosting capacity and investment in human capital of the poor and vulnerable households.
For Dateline 360, Yemi Dalimo.
From Ogun State, we go to Edo State. Though the initiative is yet to birth in the state, Udwakobong Achibong sampled opinions to know what the expectations are and what promises it owes for the businesses of rural women when flagged off.
The 20,000 naira special grant under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Inclusion is part of President Buhari's social inclusion and poverty reduction agenda. According to records, the initiative has been launched in over 15 states, while it is yet to be launched in Edo State, as gathered from government sources. Some members of the target group expressed optimism of an improved socioeconomic life if they should have access to such grant.
Go help us, we the traders. Buy many things, as many as I want. Go village, go shatter gariko.
That 20,000. So me can still they come out from inside now. People will be saying know how to make business. If you don't do business now, say you rely for man a low, it's not good.
The market not they improve before. If I see money, Jonah, you can't improve again. More and more.
I used to go to village market and buy plantain, all those fruits. But then I'll buy it many, buy a quantity. So whatever anybody wants, I'll have it. So I'll be getting different things that from village market, I will get different things that I will sell to make the money.
Most people that are selling in the market, some, their husband doesn't have work. They are the one feeding their family.
For some people, the initiative by the federal government is laudable and want it to be devoid of politics.
We thank God for government, for the support for the women and our mothers.
If you are looking at the less vulnerable in the society, and you want to give that money to them, they should devise a means to actually identify such people.
One striking thing about women in communities who are struggling to make ends meet is their desire to be economically stable for greater productivity. And for them, any initiative of the federal government to make this their desire come to fruition is worthwhile. In Benin, Udwakobong Achibong, NTA News.
Life-changing is how beneficiaries of government social interventions in Imo State describe the gestures. Beatrice Ayem followed some of them who have only good stories to tell. She also says they are full of gratitude.
The cash grant to rural women is part of the federal government's poverty eradication program targeted at indigent households in Nigeria.
Right here is a large farmland belonging to Kelechi Emeka, a widow with 4 children, and the beneficiary of the program.
Before, when
I don't have any portion to farm, but when they gave us the areas, I redeemed this land belonging to my father-in-law, who could not redeem it before he died. I put the remaining into my business. Now I can farm and feed my children.
Another beneficiary of the pilot copy, Uchechika Jetan, lives in a mud house with her family. Her earnest desire to own a better shelter is driving her into using the proceeds from her palm oil and fruit business, established with a cash grant, to mold blocks.
When they paid us, I put it in my business, and the proceeds I use it to mold blocks, enable us build house. I thank federal government for choosing me in this program.
Before this program comes up, we find it very difficult to find our daily bread. But today, as I have benefited from this program, I can now feed my children, train them in school.
I thank God for making it possible for them to choose me. I use part of it to buy birds for poultry. I've sold the first and the second set. I also trade in palm oil and firewood. Now we can feed well.
Training and Communication Officer, Imo State Cash Transfer Unit, Owerri, Amaka Obielu, speaks further on the impact of the poverty eradication program.
We have seen a lot of improvement. They've been engaged in a sustainable source of livelihood. They can now at least feed their kids. They can now pay their levies in their various communities, which is part of developing the community.
And the program is helping a lot. It has made our women to ginger themselves very well. None of them again is sleeping. They are working very hard to support their families, to support the village, to support the kindred.
We have reunions so many families who don't want to allow their wife to come out, who try to chase their wives away. But with this, when they came to collect the money and see that it's not possible, they will be forced to go and call their wife.
While being appreciative of the federal government for this gesture, the people are appealing that the program should be institutionalized to enable it to capture more people. In Owerri, Beatrice Anyam for Deadline 360.
That is the program for today. Thanks for being there. Next week is another date, and we promise you only good moments. My name is Omotola Omojola. See you then.
NTA News. When the news breaks, we mend it and present it without blemish. NTA News, authentic and authoritative.
Hello and welcome. It's time for another interesting package of
Everything Music.
Angelina, you dey cool in my temperature. If you call, I go come deliver.
This is Talking Movies.
In times of old, the world was full of wonder.
No!
Stop it! Welcoming you to your weekend for today.
Arise, oh compatriots. It's time to use our voice.
Beyond 6.
Program tonight. I am Omini Odan. In the past few years, there are growing concerns about safety in schools in Nigeria, especially secondary schools. The first shock came in April 2014 with the abduction of about 276 students of government secondary school Chibok, Borno State. February 19, 2018 came the Dapchi incident where 110 were kidnapped and recovered, with only one still missing, Leah Sharibu, who is still in captivity. On the 11th of December 2020, more than 300 schoolboys of Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, were kidnapped at Kankara, Katsina State by bandits. This time around, all the students were later freed by the captors, and just last week, on the 17th of April, precisely 2021, 27 school students were abducted in Government Science Secondary School, Kagara, Niger State, with one student killed, 3 staff of the school and 12 others who are relatives of the staff were also abducted. Abduction of school children in Nigeria is now gaining momentum, adding to heightened security challenges in the country. A lot of reason adduced by this ugly incident is partly to embarrass the government and in some cases to use the victims as a bait to achieve pecuniary advantage, while some is to intimidate the ordinary citizens and tarnish the image of the country. Be it as it may, the fact remains that abduction is a serious criminal offense and all citizens must be part of the efforts to put an end to it. The world today is ruled by a knowledge-based society, and Nigeria, with all her abundant human resources, compromise the future of our children, education, in the hands of bandits? If you ask me, this is one too many. Have we recovered from the Kankara schoolboys' abduction? What can be done to forestall future occurrences? How can we make schools safe again? This is our business tonight on the program. But first, this background are put together.
Stakeholders in the education sector must have learned the hard way when in 2014, more than 200 schoolgirls were abducted by Boko Haram terrorists in Chibok local government area of Borno State. Since then, most schools outside the state capital have been moved into Maiduguri, with expansion of the existing schools to accommodate those from rural areas. For instance, in the whole of northern Borno, where the area is prone to attacks, not a single secondary school is existing. Most of the schools have been moved to Maiduguri. Only in the southern part, where there is relative peace and lesser activities of the insurgents, would one find a secondary institution. Even those schools moved into Maiduguri are provided with certain kind of security. Strategies are being intensified in every ramification to avert recurrence of the growing phenomenon.
We have made some local arrangements with local vigilantes. They are going around, and also the school also has a man or war student. The school has already contributed some torchlight to them. They are going around the school area, the student area, and as well as the staff quarters in the night. We have restricted the movement of our students. Immediately when it is 6 p.m., after the classes hours or the classes activities, academic activities, we do not allow students to move out of the school.
When you heard about any incident in other places, you don't wait till when it comes to you. Our pupils, we don't allow them out until when it's closing time.
The menace has no doubt caused major setbacks to academic activities in all the schools affected so far, coupled with the COVID-19 pandemic that began early last year.
Honestly, we in Borno State, we are fully aware of what is happening in the country. Even before the incident that happened in Kagara, we have provided all our schools with security, that is internal security.
We adjusted the school calendar to make sure that at the moment there will be no boarding. We have instructed the principals and we have supervised them by ourselves. We instructed them to make sure that all the schools under their supervision are properly supervised.
There is no cause for alarm because we are putting in our best and we are just calling on the people of Borno State to cooperate with the police.
Although most of the Chibok girls have been freed owing to the effort of the present administration, Borno is still disturbed for those still in captivity, thereby praying with series of passionate appeals made to the abductors towards the safe release of abductees in no distant time.
Upgrading our schools is the focus of the programs tonight, and it's Tuesday Live. At some point, our phone lines will be opened in the course of the program. Please, if we're true to you, turn down your volume of the television set in making your contributions and go straight to the point. Also tonight, you can be part of the conversation through our Twitter handle at Tuesday Live NTA. Tonight, we shall be doing Abuja and other locations via Zoom. I have right here tonight with me is Judith Giwa Amo. She's an education officer with the UNICEF. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Habila Joshak, former Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of operations. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Also tonight, we are being joined via Zoom from Kaduna, Gabriel Mato, Professor of Political Science. Good to see you on the program. Ali Mecca, Professor of Criminology, University of Jos. He's joining us via Zoom in Jos. Welcome to Tuesday Live.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we begin. Let me start with Judith Giwa Amo. Securing schools in Nigeria. We have heard so much about this Safe School Initiative and the Safe School Declaration. Can you dissect and let us know the difference between the two? Safe School Initiative and the Safe School Declaration.
Okay. The Safe School Initiative is a program, is a country-level program that was launched in 2014 by Gordon Brown and the Nigerian Global Business Coalition for Education towards ensuring that children in the Northeast specifically are able to undertake education in safety and security. It had three quick wins, three models. The first one had to do with safe schools model in 30 schools in low-risk areas. The second one had to do with the relocation of children from high-risk areas to low-risk areas. This was supported or implemented by the Federal Ministry of Education, supported by Ministry of Finance. And then the third model had to do with supporting children in internally displaced camps to access education through double shift schooling method. This was implemented by UNICEF. It actually lasted from 2014 to 2016, and there were actually some achievements. But like I said, it was localized. The Safe School Declaration is an intergovernmental treaty that is signed by Nigeria among 105 other countries. And it's signing endorsement to, as a country means that Nigeria is officially, legally undertaking to ensure that measures are in place to protect education from attack. So this letter of endorsement was signed by the Honorable Minister, Federal Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, in 2018. And it actually gave the impetus for the development of a policy, the National School Safety, Security and Violence-Free Schools Policy. This policy was put in place shortly after the president of the country, President Muhammadu Buhari, actually signed the approval for ratification. That means implementation, mainstreaming of Safe School Declaration from federal level down to the states, down to the school. Now, this ratification instrument is the policy. And the policy actually gives, guidance for how schools can be protected in a multi-pronged approach. It has 4 pillars. The first pillar is looking at, first of all, endorsing and actually implementing the policy. Risk assessment, that is identifying what constitutes a risk around the schools. The second one has to do with early warning systems. How can we be warned early enough? And when you're talking of early warning systems, we're talking of functional, community-led, community-level systems that are led by traditional religious leaders. And then we're also talking of, having gadgets. How do we have gadgets that can, like alarms? It can be local. It doesn't have to be, the ultra-modern one. It also looks at, school measures. For instance, perimeter fencing and gates. According to the Universal Basic Education personnel audit that was carried out in 2018, 61% of schools, so I'm talking of schools for early childhood development, primary and junior secondary schools, 61% have gates, have either very poor fences or no fences at all. Now we know that the perimeter fencing constitutes the first physical barrier against an intruder. So when that is not there, it means that the integrity of that school is undermined. And then we have other, we have resilience building, and these are measures that are targeting the children, because we see that every key stakeholder has a role to play, including the children. If the children are armed with knowledge on, we call it disaster risk reduction, so disaster risk education, what to do, how to, how to go through an evacuation, how to go through drills, what to do in terms of...
Let me just hold that briefly. Okay. Now, the concern is, you have reeled out novel plan and what have you. Are the schools aware? Are they conscientized? Are the states, even local government, aware of this Safe Schools Declaration signed by Mr. President?
Well, what I want to say is that, like I mentioned, it started all from 2018, and the development of the policy is at the national level. At this time, the policy it has been passed through the National Council on Education for approval and implementation. It has actually gone through the first level. Now, the stage we are in is from policy to practice. So this is also been, fast-tracked by what has happened for us to actually start implementing. And that is actually the advocacy for now. We are using the fact that this attacks on education, so attacks on the school, attacks on the educational personnel, the children, and of course educational assets, as a direct advocacy and wake-up call, because as you know, education is on the concurrent list. So each state governor, the state governor, is, of course, the budget owner, and he determines the priority for education.
Okay,
Now,
let me
this
hold
is
you
the
there for now.
priority.
Joshua, I'll come to you. Let's quickly go to Kaduna, where Professor Kabiru Mato is joining us via Zoom. He's directly involved. Let's find out how this thing works in Kaduna State, where he is based. Professor Kabiru, if you can hear me, from the analysis given by Judith Giwa Amu with UNICEF, would you say the Safe School Declaration is visible and implementable and is working in Kaduna State already? So, I don't want to take you into the Safe School Declaration because you're not directly involved. Basically, are you worried about the security of schools in Nigeria?
Very, very worried. In the first place, the government is making deliberate policy to ensure that a lot of the young ones schooled or go to school, particularly the female children who are female. And so if you come in with a threat of insecurity, then it means that you're going to start right afresh again. And so we're very, very worried, and I also know that everybody is worried. Remember the Dapchi abduction. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria ordered that security be beefed up and security personnel should go and look at the lapses. I was one of those. I was one of the first people to arrive there, and I received Mr. President, who sat in a classroom with the teachers and the Parent Teachers Association, and he took a lot of time to find out exactly what happened, and thereafter ordered that we should take a step, the security should take a step, particularly then the police with the civil defense, that we should take a step of collapsing small schools together, and we'll make sure that we do some posting that will prevent anybody from getting close. And that was what happened. And so I want to say that when you bring in threats of insecurity into secondary schools, and then you're definitely trying to make sure that you want to collapse the educational system and discourage the children from coming to school because of kidnapping, and then the kind of suffering, or the kind of threat, the kind of the situation that they go through when they are kidnapped. And so it's a very, very worrisome development.
Okay, we shall be going to Jos now, but quickly, if our signals are true, we may likely be going to Mina, where Rugo will be joining us to give us update there, and most likely, if he's able to get to the state governor, we'll also join the state governor to update us on developments over there. But quickly, Jos is ready, where Atanibi Alimeka is waiting. Atanibi, I believe you're following the program. You heard the opening thoughts by Judith Giwa Amu. She has talked glowingly, robust plan by the government regarding what government is doing. Is the Safe Schools Declaration working in Plateau State?
Well, let me say that I'm not an official of Plateau State government, so I really don't know what is working and what is not working. But I think it is very fundamental for us to understand what is going on. We are calling it banditry. Kidnapping of school children is an act of terrorism. And public schools are particularly vulnerable. And you may ask, why are they vulnerable? Simply because for decades they have been neglected by the government, because they have, people in power had removed their children from public schools to private schools. So we're dealing with consequences of neglect in governance of decades with respect to, public school that led them to be vulnerable. Second thing we need to understand is terrorists, because it's terrorist act, as I've said, usually have a number of strategies, and two of them which are very important and relevant to the current situation is the fact, one, you strike at targets that will generate wide publicity. The second thing, you strike at targets that will diminish trust in government and elicit loyalty to the insurgent groups, because it shows that government cannot protect you. So we're actually dealing with terrorism, not the soft, term we're talking about, banditry and what have you. So in the context of this terrorism, it will be difficult to have this simple safe school declaration, safe school program work very effectively. So I think what needs to be done is to understand that we're dealing with terrorists which also have chosen school as target. You recall when Boko Haram was also targeting school and telling places of worship, because these are the places that generate mass publicity and of course a diminished trust in government. So I think kidnapping of children also exert pressure on government and parents to quickly respond to the demands of the terrorists. In this case, it does include ransom, but in fact, it may actually include much more. We know a terrorist group that says Western education is not should not be encouraged. Is there a possibility that what we are calling bandits, in fact, is a collection of different groups that are working together with different imaginations? So basically, I think a lot needs to be done to be able to use those kind of soft programs, as it's been mentioned as soft, I call them soft programs like Safe School Initiative and the rest of them, because the number of schools have, in the country, and as Mrs. Dua pointed out, you have 61% of the school without any kind of facilities to protect people. You need to go and protect them by providing those facilities. You need to deploy security there, and it has to be a long-term planning. I think one of the mistakes that have been made is the fact that we think a terrorist situation that had ranged so far can disappear overnight. We're in for a long battle, and the long battle needs to be planned, have a long-term plan to combat it. Thank you.
Ali Mecca, I asked, are you by chance aware whether the Safe School Declaration is already being implemented in Plateau State at the state and local government level? Is it working there already?
I told you I'm not an official of Plateau State government or Ministry of Education. So I do know that it's a federal program of school initiative, but I do not know how they operate in any state of the federation.
Judith, you heard from Professor of Criminology, University of Jos, Atanibi Alimika, what he said. Now, you came up with a robust plan. The way it is now, the concern is, are we sure principals, teachers, students are in touch or in sync with this Safe School Declaration? Because it is one thing to sign a declaration, to launch it. You have talked about how government has launched it. Is it working?
Now, let me tell you specifically. I told you that we are moving from policy to practice. This Safe School Declaration was introduced officially in 2018. For it to be implemented at the state level, there must be the requisite tools. The requisite tool, like I mentioned, the policy has just been developed. It has been passed. There are also tools for reporting attacks on education and to initiate education continuity thereafter. It also have other components. Now, these have just been developed, and this is the time for mainstreaming. So I didn't say that it has already gone down. Okay. But the tools we are going to use have been developed and at the point of going down. The policy, as we know, it cannot, when you develop a policy, it has to go through the education system, the councils that, approve policies for usage. And this national policy on safety, security, and violence-free schools has gone through the first stage. It is now going to the second stage, and then it will be rolled out. But with what has happened, for me, the recommendation is that it should be fast-tracked and actually be rolled out for implementation at the state level. So it hasn't even gone to the state level. It's just been policy advocacy all this time. And a lot of policy advocacy has been done in the Northeast concerning the Safe School Declaration, but other parts of the country yet to be done. This policy is one that has considerations for the 6 geopolitical zones. So it goes beyond the Safe School Initiative, which I told you was, concentrated in the Northeast, as opposed to the Safe School Declaration, which is national and indeed global. And like I said, when it was introduced, there's a plan of action that gave key measures that must be implemented. Nigeria, among countries of the world, 106, has done a lot in terms of actually having those key actions in place. And it's being used as a role model, really, by other countries that call in to ask, what is going on. Based on what Nigeria has done, and I want to say, led by Federal Ministry of Education and co-led by UNICEF and Save the Children, this working group has, been able to achieve a lot under the plan of action, such that Nigeria is being called to host the 4th International Safe School Conference, the first African country in the world. So it's, it's putting this together and then now from policy to practice.
Okay, as much as it is still at the policy end, not practice, Joshua, you still go to schools, and as large as the size of the school will be, whether a boarding school or a day school, primary, secondary, I'm making reference to public schools now because of the facilities. You have the football pitch and other facilities that a standard school should have. Entering the school, at times, the entire day, you find just one man called the security man. From what she's reeling out, do you think we are ready to take off with it?
Well, I don't think so. I think that in planning how to secure students while learning, we must ensure that we don't take security issues of the students to the background. We need to strengthen and ensure that there is security, because these students cannot learn when they cannot have good learning and concentration when these schools are being threatened, because they're stressed. They go through when they are taken out of the school is something else. And so I would advise that most schools, whether government or private, have not paid particular attention to safety and securing students while learning in schools in all over the country, except some of them that had existed in a closed environment where facilities are available. There are a lot of sporting activities, and they are really walking, and the children are walking up and down and do not have any reason to even stroll out. But even at that, like I said, security is local. You need to buy the confidence of the communities. Where that school is sited, you need to bring them and let them know that they have a role to play. And what do? You may not be able to have people who will go to seek for intelligence, but the people, the community out there, those on the farm, those doing other businesses, used to go through, and they get the information about people that have been the suspicious people who are trying to plan to carry out any of the crime within this school. And if you partner with them and bring them as partners and make them look important and give them assignment, I can tell you that people who would want to come into that school to pick the students would have been seen and action would have taken place. Rather than...
From what Judith has said,
yes,
with what is happening currently, what should be done in terms of an emergency action pending when the practicability of the policy will take off?
Yeah, what should be done, like I said, is the school should provide, first of all, sporting activities and things that will keep the children in the school. If it is a day student, they must have a way of taking these children out and taking them in. And then I said again that the most important thing in security for schools, you must partner with the communities who also will see it as a responsibility to watch out for suspicious people who would either come to spy and go or walk around, because it's very, very easy for the community to see people that have intention to commit whatever crime. And so if they are brought together and they are meant to be partners and they are co-opted in the system, it's more effective than putting the soldiers armed or the police armed or any security armed or not armed.
Let's go to Jos. Professor Atanibi, you have heard what we are discussing over here, and as worrisome as it is, you are based in Jos, Plateau State. We are here in Abuja. Give us a mind picture of how best this can work. You have heard from Judith, you have heard from Joshua. You are on ground, and I believe you have typical example of some of these kind of schools. A good case, like he said, you go to some schools, you don't find perimeter fencing as large as the school may be. No fence, just one security man. How best can we attack this or to safeguard it?
Well, under normal situation, every school ought to have what is generally called school safety guidelines to guide everyone who, whether students, whether teachers, or visitors. So the first thing to do is to begin to establish some access control. You know, people having access to those institutions. And it's obvious that perimeter fencing, an appropriate one, will be the first step in order to restrict entry into the school and to, you know, reduce even the student in case of an attack dispersing in different directions. And it's going to be easy for resources for protection that we put in there to be managed if you have the schools fenced. So that is the first thing that ought to be done. But again, I think in addition to the protocol that Mrs. Dua had mentioned, is also to rolling them out, but also to know that we're in a state of emergency, in which case we now have to combine providing security in the traditional ways to aid. For now, the style of attack remains rural, and therefore we can also begin to map what schools are in the rural communities, where are they located, what are the security infrastructure that are closest to those areas, and begin to deploy available security facilities. In situations like this, you might actually task a particular agency, security agency, to pay greater attention to this. For example, I don't see anything wrong with the federal government tasking the Civil Defense Corps to take protection of school as a priority in the present dispensation until we're able to find a long-lasting solution to it. So I think it's a combination of immediate action of actually providing people to physically, with respect to guidelines that are necessary for safety, to be around the place. Obviously, even no matter how fenced the place is, a security guard is not enough. But it's not only the security official that can provide security that can help. If the people who, like he said, both the students and teachers themselves have responsibility and interest in providing security. But we need to take it as being an emergency. We need to recognize that these are not just unarmed people. These are terrorists that are invading schools, and we need to respond to it as we respond to any terrorist activities, not just in terms of arms, but indeed in terms of what we call target hardening. The target hardening means, in criminology, means you make it difficult for aggressor to reach his target. I think this is a combination of things we need to do. In the meantime, we may have to borrow from Borno 2, where you aggregate a number of schools together, especially secondary school, and make sure that you're able to provide effective services instead of them being scattered all over the place, and you are not able to provide security for any of them.
insurgents started in Nigeria, it was as though the Nigerian military didn't have experience regarding asymmetrical warfare, even police and what have you. We're still in force then. Yes. But now you could hear them say they have the experience, the training has taken place and what have you. Now, given the developments now, where lies the place of intelligence? Besides engaging the locals, the natural rulers and what have you, if intelligence is not coordinated, will it work?
Uncoordinated intelligence will really hamper progress in trying to restore peace wherever it is. And so it's one of the problems. But how do you gather intelligence when these insurgents have already been planted into the community? There were a lot of, I think we have a lot of ungoverned space, and some of the communities or villages that are even big do not feel the presence of any social amenities from the government. And so, because of that, they look up to these criminals and these insurgents that come in to attempt to think they're providing some amenities, and so plant them and then buy their confidence. And they also look at them as the government, because of course they help them with a lot of either loans or some other things that ease their living. And so intelligence, you have to get to where you can get intelligence. So long as you have no access to this area and because you can't go, because you do not know the terrain, then it becomes very difficult. And that's why I'm saying that a lot of the people who should have given this intelligence have also had the fact that they have a notion that they were neglected, they were ignored, government presence was not there, and though they saw this, bandits that are with them, trying to be very friendly and providing some of the amenities, that made them not to actually look out for those they will give intelligence. So you don't get intelligence from such area where there's some restriction, but at the same time, that is why I'm saying the community must be reached, so that those of them that have the love of the country, that are nationalistic, could be able to give just one intelligence that will lead to a lot of action, because the military and other agencies that are responsible for restoring peace in that place require this intelligence. Otherwise, it's going to be a difficult task.
And the other aspect is, it looks as though we are losing track of the fact that law and order, protection of lives and property, is a primary responsibility of the police. But because of development, everything we military is that supposed to be the case?
Yes. Yeah, it's true. The face of that operation in Maiduguri is the military. But I, as the head of operation for the Nigerian police, I know a lot of the policemen, yes, that were planted in quite a large number. They are also there as they clear. In most cases, they occupy places that have been captured, and sometimes the other ones, I know that they've been trained with the soldiers in Buniyadi, and they were deployed, and I think they were very useful. We still have other security agencies, even the DSS, even the civil defense are right out there. And so it's not just the affair of the soldiers. But I would also say that, security is very expensive, and you cannot measure the level of success. And so until we're also ready to look at zero on every one of the security agencies and know exactly what the needs are, and also make it very clear that you have to work together and share intelligence and share experiences, and then come together and take a shot. And I'm sure that's going to make a lot of difference.
Okay. Judith, most times I tell people, yes, I was privileged to attend a primary school. Just like those who were privileged to attend maybe nursery and other high ivory schools, they were not privileged to attend where I attended. Years back, I believe you had a similar experience. Joshua, same for you. You go to a school, primary and secondary schools were one place that was as safe as, maybe that's why the tradition of having one security man was just enough, because, I mean, what would you be going to do in a school? I guess they will say development comes with a lot of advantages and disadvantages. Now we are being faced with development on ground. You are coming with a robust plan by the school Safe Schools Initiative, later on Safe School Declaration. The way it is, besides maybe takeoff, which you have said will soon be the order of the day implementation, are there plans to train heads of schools, teachers, even the students and pupils?
Of course. I mentioned that everyone has a stake. So the children need to be trained in disaster risk reduction, what they can do, evacuation drills. In a lot of schools, there exists what we call schools emergency response plans, so that children are informed and know what to do in the event of an emergency, in the event of an attack. They know, because they have been practicing this with their teachers, they know what route to take, they know what alternative, maybe fire exits and other exits that they can take. You see, when we talk of emergency preparedness, we're talking of, actions that can be taken advanced to mitigate an attack, including removal from area of threat. So if the school is coming under attack, if the children are out of there, there's no risk again, because the children have been moved out, and we basically want the children to be safe. So definitely the teachers, the school authority, even community preparedness, like he mentioned, is very critical and is part of the pillars under the Safe School Declaration, where we recognize the role of the community as one of the most strategic education sector partners, because they are in the vicinity with the school. Before the forces come from the capitals, the community is there. So community resilience is a major part of this program. Building their capacity, building capacity of teachers, building capacity of children, so that while this is happening, while they're trying to ward away, the children are also leaving the area of threat. So it's part of the program.
Okay, from what she has said, how will it work if, for instance, the community is a major component, intelligence is a major component, but the people attacking, the abductors, the captors, are armed. The community, the host community, they are not armed. The school, not armed. The children, not armed. How will this work?
Well, I've told you, because most of us had the opportunity to handle a lot of operations in this country for several years. And I can tell you that there is no one. People, those criminals do not just jump or rappel from a helicopter. They take a long trek. They also come in the vehicles or in whatever means. And they must have passed a lot of communities and a lot of people. That is enough. If the community have been conscientized and they've been co-opted, and they know that they're part of the system of the security of all those schools, they will raise an alarm some kilometers away from this incident. And that will save a lot of situation, because a call must have been placed to other security agencies, either the military, the police, the civil defense, or what have you, that are armed. And they will also, of course, take position. What we call take position. And if they take position, they are likely to take these people by surprise, because I can tell you that these guys that move, a lot of people saw them in Dapchi. Yes. They left Lake Chad. It's 200 kilometers away to Dapchi in Yobe. And people saw them coming. And nobody called to warn or to give this intelligence, because none of them have been co-opted into the intelligence level. So people must be conscientized and know that when you suspect such movement, you must raise alarm by all means. And that is the only way, one of the best ways that we can prevent this.
Okay, Professor Ali Mika, you have heard from us in Abuja. I keep using one emphasis. You are based in a typical location where some of these things are happening. I know you tell me maybe you are not an official of government, but listening to what particularly Judy is saying, if you're privileged now, how will you relegate this or replicate this back in Plateau State and other states of the Federation?
Well, I'm sure Judith is very clear on what she's saying, that there is a program is still at the level of translation from policy to practice. And I think the issue we are dealing with is an urgent matter that stares us in the face. And policy to practice of the kind of elaborate policy that is being referred to will take fairly long time to implement across the country. And so I think that in itself is a challenge. And that goes straight to, I think what needs to be done at now is just three, I call them three issues. Question of priority. Are we going to place a lot of priority on safe schools? The second thing, how are we going to respond to it, even if it's a priority? What measures, mechanisms are we going to use? And then what the current capacity that we have, how can we bridge the gap in capacity? I think for now, we have shortage of personnel if you want to go on physical security. And for me, you require a consideration of personnel technology mix, whereby you cannot procure personnel as rapidly as you would like. You cannot triple the population of the police in 6 months, in 1 year, not even in 2 years. The same thing, the military. But you probably can expedite, accelerate their work by introducing technologies. We're talking about these places are not reached. There are surveillance equipment. Obviously, the obvious one is a drone that can be deployed into some of these areas. So for me, it is a question of priority. What priority attached to it? What is the level of responsiveness of the people who should respond as leaders? And then, of course, capacity and bridging that capacity. That's what I think we need in this very urgent situation. I'm not sure interrogating the policies and all those ones at this time will provide immediate responsibility. But as Judith said repeatedly, I think it calls for urgency to mainstreaming those policies and see how they can be implemented as rapidly as possible.
I told you earlier, we go to some locations in the country to take reports. The first one is from Abuja.
On the 15th April 2014, Nigerians woke up with the news of the abduction of 276 female students of government secondary school Chibok in Borno State by insurgents who disguised as security guards and invaded the school and took the students in a truck to an unknown destination. By May 2017, 88 of the abducted girls regained freedom following negotiation between the Nigerian government and the terrorist group. On the 19th February 2018, another news of abduction of 110 students of Government Girls Science and Technical College, Dapchi, in Yobe State occupied the media space. After weeks of intense pressure by the Nigerian government, the girls were released except for Leah Sharibu, who is still in captivity. The abduction of more than 330 students of Government Science Secondary School Kankara in Katsina State in December 2020, who were later released after another negotiation, again threw the nation into a sober atmosphere. A lot was said to safeguard schools from such incidents, but the abduction of 27 students of Government Science College Kagara in Niger State, 15 officials of the college and their relatives by bandits on 17 February 2021 has again opened up discussions on how to end the trend. Although Niger State government says it is working towards the safe release and return of the abducted Kagara students and other victims. Aside these abductions, there have been pockets of attacks on secondary schools. One of such is the one on Federal Government College Buniadi in Yobe State in 2014, killing 29 students. These attacks on schools in the country by criminal elements, many say, is a wake-up call to managers of educational facilities, especially those operating boarding schools, even as it is apparent that students are increasingly becoming soft targets for abductors. Again, stakeholders say government needs to develop and deploy new strategies to deal with new threats to the security and safety of children and their education through a comprehensive security approach to boarding facilities to safeguard lives and secure the future of these promising leaders. Francis Form
is the report coming from Katsina.
The abduction of 340 students of the Government Science Secondary School Kankara, Katsina State on December 11, 2020, and their subsequent release 6 days later, the state government ordered the immediate closure of all secondary schools across the 34 local government areas to forestall a reoccurrence.
Inspector General of Police directed all the boarding secondary schools in the state be secured by armed mobile policemen.
He has directed that we set up community security at various schools. This will help the management of the schools to interface with their neighboring communities towards being more proactive, because the moment the communities are proactive, the level of threats can be countered. Again, we're into partnership with the Nigerian police, the civil defense, and other security agents in the state for providing physical security at the schools.
The closure put a stop to all academic activities in the schools.
To be at school is better than being at home, because there is so many things which the children can be involved.
For those children to go back to school, government at least has to do something that will provide security so that their lives will be safe.
The government make sure there is security within the society itself first. That is within the confine of the, let's say, Katsina State, and then you can secure the schools additionally.
In spite of all these efforts by the security agencies to forestall future reoccurrence of such ugly incidents at various schools in the state, academic activities following the closure of these schools came to a standstill. Though no date has been announced for the reopening of boarding schools, students and parents have all shown their willingness to resume academic activities.
The first segment of reports, our next report is coming from Jigawa State.
Jigawa is one of the most peaceful states in northern Nigeria. However, it is bordering Yobe and Katsina states, with history of student abduction and activities of insurgents and other banditry activities. Looking around some of the schools, however, show that while those in urban areas are protected with fence and internal security arrangements, many located in rural areas do not have perimeter fence or fully armed security guarding them. These stakeholders say necessitated the need to be proactive to avert such occurrence like in other states and ensure schools and students are secured.
Try to organize a way in which the policemen will be visiting particularly our boarding schools to go and monitor what is happening there. And we even ask for the presence of police officers, 2 officers, during the night time. Because some of our schools have no fencing, but we are working with this excellency so that those schools that don't have this fencing have these fences constructed.
Schools are protected, and as soon as we hear things happening in other places, we take prompt measure. We also deploy more patrolmen closer to those schools to further reassure parents, students, teachers that we are not unaware of what is happening.
For parents, it's the most challenging situation for their children, especially those in boarding school facility.
No parent is comfortable because the life of a child is a life of a nation. For the children, psychologically, it's tragic.
I'm not very comfortable with my kids in boarding school. As I speak to you now, most of my friends and I are deciding to remove our children and enroll them into schools where they will go and come.
Many believe education is in danger, especially with increasing cases and activities of gunmen and insurgents, among others, which requires measures that will guarantee the protection of lives and public property across schools and allow learning to take place at ease.
Listening to the reports, you get enthused, you get worried. Now let me begin with Judith. From what you listed out, it is very clear that you have armed and unarmed measures. We are more or less in an emergency situation right now in the country. Can the two be implemented at the same time, or you still want to do one after the other?
For us, the focus for us is looking at the community-based measures and then the unarmed measures. But in the face of threat, the state, has the prerogative to call for armed measures to ensure that the children are able to access their rights to education. Because if children do not feel secure, they can't even concentrate. They can't even perform. So if it has come to the situation whereby armed measures, a decision is taken for armed measures to ensure that the school is safe, then it behoves on the government, the state government, to take that into consideration. But in terms of education, we are looking at what can we do within the school? What can we have control of? So we can have control of the children, training the children to be able to prepare and respond to emergencies, training their teachers, their caregivers, ensuring that the security man or gate man or whoever is well trained, well equipped, and has had a background check. Because sometimes you see that some of these security people, they also have some affiliation with some of these, non-armed groups, which you actually need to know, or you need to be able to forestall, because like you said, sometimes for them to get in, there must be an inside person. So that is also something that needs to be taken into consideration.
The other one that bothers also is you go to some schools. In schools, naturally, you must have break time. And during break, we have where you normally go and buy things. I don't know what obtains now. I've not been to a primary or secondary school to see how it functions lately. If these facilities are not within the school, and during break, these students are compelled to leave the vicinity of the school to either go and recreate and return back. Is it a safety measure?
Yes, they become exposed to threat, and so that is why sometimes when we even talk of day students, we say that the community partnership, we call them the school-based management committees, should be involved in even escorting these children, depending on where they even live. So sometimes you have that escort service to ensure, to kind of make sure that the children are able to get to school in safety and security. So that also pertains.
Okay. Joshua, if you go to some communities, citing a school was not a problem. But today, with the challenge at hand, the location of a school matters a lot. If you go to some communities, you need to go as much as 6 kilometers away from the community to attend school, whether primary or secondary. Is siting of schools a serious issue right now?
Yes, I think siting a school is a serious issue. There has to be some integrity test to make sure that within that community where the school is to be sited, that the people are honored people and that there are no criminals, because we all know criminals that stay with us in the rural areas. Whether in the city, your neighbors, you all know them. You see what they do, and you put a lot of them to suspicion and put a lot to trust. Therefore, there's a need for us to do an analysis and, of course, a background check, whether a school could be cited at a point, not just get in a place and just cite a school. It's very, very relevant and important that we do a background check, we check properly to ensure that schools in the particular area will serve the purpose and the life of the students and the teachers and everybody around will not be put under threat.
What about the location? Because you find some schools during school hours, it is totally isolated from the community. They are all somewhere studying to return back to the community later. So you find these persons can just walk in and strike and walk away and nothing happens.
Gone are those days that is allowed. Now we must have to look at everything that we're doing. We must ensure that security is uppermost in our hearts. Security is expensive, and yet it does not produce any result that you can touch. And that's why people find it very difficult to invest in security. People even see those that provide security as people who are not actually worth to be paid what is to be paid. And that's why if we prioritize security, we just have to do a real background check and to identify where exactly this could be cited. Otherwise, if there are a lot of this incident anymore, a lot of these younger ones in the secondary, primary school are likely to find it difficult to attend schools.
Okay. When these developments happen, from the reports you've heard, we hear closure of schools and the advocacy for community security across the locations. When we return after the break, we'll begin with Professor Alimika to give us perspective in these directions. Stay with us.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Stay tuned, and the focus tonight is securing our schools in Nigeria. You can be part of the conversation through our Twitter handle at Tuesday Live NTA. We'll begin this segment from Jos, where Professor Alemika is joining us via Zoom in Jos. Prof, before we went on break, I promoted a few issues. Let's begin with the immediate Kagara. As soon as it happens, the state governor ordered the closure of schools within the cluster where this thing happened. Is it about closing schools? When you close the schools, what steps should be taken towards reopening the schools? If you close the schools and nothing is being done to forestall what happened before the schools were closed, and you open the schools, has it solved any problem?
No, I think it simply means we've learned no lesson if nothing is done. After closing the school and a few weeks later, you reopen the school without nothing done. The school ought to have been closed or should be closed in order to provide what was missing that enable bandits to take a hostage in the school. So it should be just for that purpose, not because you want to buy time and return people to the same situation. But I think, dealing with this problem, need for us to understand that education is the most vital way of developing a nation and individuals and citizens within it. And therefore, any challenges related to education have both serious consequences for the present our future generations. So I think what we need to do, and you raised the issue of citing. Citing those schools were based on two things. Some of them were done politically, but some of them were also done in terms of access, where there are small villages, and none of them could actually provide children or pupil for a full-fledged school. The strategy was to site schools in a central location where people come from the different villages and congregate in the middle of these communities. Now, I think that is problematic also because those communities are not well served. Let's take a hypothetical case. If those communities are linked effectively by road networks, they could be patrolled. They could be the presence of security officials, the police to patrol those routes, and of course, other measures that can be taken. But if they are just isolated rural communities, as most of the time they are, disconnected from government, forgotten by government, and they are left to the mercy of terrorists, of bandits, whatever we call them. And I think that is what is happening for now. So in terms of new schools that are going to be started, even the existing one, there's need for the short run to reconsider, like I said, maybe aggregation of pupils in schools, especially for those ones that are in boarding school, to safer places until we can take measure to ensure that all schools are secured. So that's one strategy. And I think the other strategy about community, we should not overstress the role of community in the short run. In the long run, very vital. Even the communities themselves are currently being attacked with impunity. So if the community is not safe, of course, they don't even have the capacity, the enablement to be able to defend themselves, not to talk of defending the school. So we're actually in a general situation of insecurity that require us rethinking. My worry, very seriously, is that I don't think we're actually stepping back and rethinking the whole thing we call the mode by which we provide security, the means employed, the institutional, assemblage responsible to security. We need to go back to rethink. We are in a serious situation, and like I said, it's not going to go away in 2, 3, 4 years because it's reached a very high level of incidents, and so we need also a long-term plan to begin to diminish the consequences of the insecurity. And that planning is what we need. It should not be regime-based. It should be a national interest-based, which we think about 10 years' time. What measures do we need to put in place, implemented on an annual basis, that will enable us overcome that? Take something as simple as empowering the police. Police in Nigeria do not have annual recruitment plan. There is no reason why the Nigeria police, for example, will not have it in budget for an annual recruitment of say 10, 15, 20,000 new people coming into it. You wait for 4 or 5 years when about 100,000 people have exited the police, and then you give permission for 20,000 to be implemented, and everybody crowd around that and clap them. You are still short of 80,000 people compared to 5 years ago. These are the disconnects that we're experiencing, that the consequences of we encounter today. There is need for rethinking, not just about schools, but overall, even our critical infrastructure, our societies, our communities. We need to rethink how best to, and it is not just throwing slogans around community policing and the rest of them. It's actually very serious thinking, which is contextualized in context of our history, in the context of our capacity, in the context of our challenges, and in the context of our resources that we also have to self-police.
Our first caller from Kaduna, is it still online? Olainka is calling from Kaduna. Hello, Olainka. Oh, we lost that call. Well, I believe you will call back. Judith, out of school phenomenon, government is battling through scarce resources to ensure that this is not the case. But with the development now, do you think the out of school thing will work? Because if government is trying to get back students to school, and some locations right now in the country, you never can tell it may spread eventually if it is not nipped in the bud adequately or effectively. If parents realize that sending children to public schools is a problem, they cannot afford to send them to private schools. Which will they prefer? They will prefer their children to stay at home. So the out-of-school phenomenon becomes a problem. How do you address that?
Well, we know that education remains a great equalizer. It is education that lets the children of less fortunate homes be able to sit at the same table with kings. And we know that it is only through education that children can acquire knowledge and skills and contribute meaningfully to the socio-economic development of the nation. Now, the fear of, schools being shut down as a result of insecurity...
Just a second, you conclude. We have another caller from Owerri, Stephen. Hello, Stephen. You're on to Tuesday Live. Judith, please, can you go ahead? We can't hear you, Stephen. I mean.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Please, that's our sister there trying to tell us that there will be training. There will be. Hello.
We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I want to ask that my sister there. The kind of training that we are going to give our children, the teenagers in school, that they can be able to, attack or defend themselves when these bandits come to attack them. Hello?
Go ahead, Stephen. We are hearing you.
Okay. So, my dear sister, you see, what I want you to have at the back of your mind is that whenever these bandits are coming, they have in their mind that they may be attacked or there may be a kind of attack. And don't be prepared for anything. So tell me the kind of preparation and training that you're going to give to our children, these teenagers in school and their teachers, that they can be able to withstand these bandits with arms, that will surrender the place and begin to shoot periodically without mind. I want you to understand that when they are coming, they have in their mind that, yes, they may be attacked, and their life is at stake. Whatever that will stop them from doing what they want to do, they are ready to, deal with that thing. So please explain and tell me what kind of training that we are going to give to these children that they can be able to withstand these bandits. That is the area I want you to just clear it to me. Let me know the kind of training that these children will have, that they can be able to withstand these bandits with arms. Please, my sister. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Stephen called from Owerri. You want to react to that?
Yes. Stephen, hello, good evening. I did not say that they'll be trained to withstand. We do not want children to engage or police or teachers to engage with armed bandits. We are talking of evacuation. Maybe if they are able to get the proper alarm system through a backwards, maybe like we say, a safety exit, they can run away, they can file away neatly. If they have been trained on what to do in the event of an emergency, there will be no confusion. There will be no children running over each other. We're not expecting children to be able to face armed bandits. Please, we are not at all. But how can they? Because I talked about emergency preparedness and response, and particularly preparedness, which means that you can remove what matters to us. And what matters to us is life, is our children, is our teachers. So removal from a source of threat is part of preparedness. So that is what I'm talking about, how they can be moved through drills and practice. They know that when there is a threat, they are able to move out of the location that is threatened. I hope that clarifies.
Okay, before you conclude the issue of the out-of-school phenomenon, let's take this caller from Lagos. I hear Austin is calling in from Lagos. Hello, Austin.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Austin. Go ahead, please.
Okay, see, you guys said securing schools in Nigeria. I want to ask something. the security of the school you're talking about, is it as a whole in general, or just for maybe the upcoming students, or both the university students, or is that what you're talking about?
Everything, we are talking about every school, yes.
Yeah, if you're talking about that, because the police people that is part of the people that is supposed to secure the school, okay? The police people that is part of the people that is supposed to secure the school are the ones people making the students to be scaring, because how can the school I went to, the police will just see you on the road and stop you on the road. At times they will come to the school to pick you up and tell you you are using a big phone. You're not supposed to use a big phone, embarrass you. I don't understand. So is it that those police people that is harassing us, that is the one that is supposed to secure us, but they are still the same people harassing us? So who do we call the security now that will secure the school, that will secure the students?
Okay, thank you, Austin. Joshua, you want to respond to that?
Well, I wouldn't want to say that that's not true, but maybe some isolated cases. But what the police are trying to do is zero on people whose attitude to life or whose lifestyle is called to question. And they zero on those youth, because some of them have keyed out and commit all kind of crimes. But I agree that there are situations when those rights are abused. But I can say that it's not in all situations, because the police have been able to mob up a lot of criminals that do a lot of things to create problem for the society by doing a lot of things that has to do with morality, getting into somebody's account, breaking into somebody's account, and what have you. Those are the reasons why policemen when they observe an individual and think they have to question him, they do that. But some of them definitely abuse that kind of privilege by.
And that is the worry Austin is actually passing across
Yes,
to us.
it does.
We have another caller from Lagos, George. Hello, George.
When they observe an individual and think they have to question him, they do that.
Hello, George.
Yeah, good day, sir.
Good evening, George. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Good day, sir.
Can you turn down the volume of the television set, please?
Yeah, okay. I enjoy the program. I'm happy to listen to the program. I'm enjoying the program. Yeah, I'm enjoying the program. I'm happy to hear about the. That's not okay.
Okay, George, thank you very much. I think George is just trying to listen to himself. Quickly, I raised a concern. Yeah. Government is battling within available resources to address the issue of out-of-school children. And I said before the phone calls started coming in, if what government is doing in the midst of this, schools are being attacked, students are abducted, do you think parents will be encouraged to send their children to school?
I mean, I'm a parent, you're a parent, and...
Absolutely.
Yes. Where you do not have the confidence that your child will be safe and secured, the onus is for you to actually keep your child at home, or ensure that you want, like they say, the child that is alive is the child you have. So when you do not have that confidence, and I think that is something that we're quite concerned about, because we know that occasions that keep children out of school, by the time it is maybe in quotes temporarily suspended, not that same number of children return. And we know that school has been identified actually as safety because of some of the dangers, violence that are perpetrated even outside the schools, even in the homes, with the perpetrators being sometimes the immediate family. So children sometimes feel freer in the school. Also,
okay. Children sometimes feel free in the school. Just a second.
Yes.
Ahmed is calling in from Abuja. Let's take a listen to the call, then you conclude, please. Hello, Ahmed.
Yes, I'm calling from Abuja.
Yes, we know you're calling from Abuja. Go ahead, Ahmed.
Okay, my question now. We rely on police. And if you listen to some of the news last night, says that even police that are protecting us are against us. So what are we going to do? Who are the security that we are going to rely on?
Okay, thank you, Ahmed. I think you should conclude before Joshua will reply to that. Before we forget.
Okay. Yeah. So I was saying that sometimes we have sexual gender-based violence and physical violence to perpetrators at home. Even sometimes, like when we talk of physical violence, like this remote learning that has had to take place in this era of COVID-19, and you see some children are not responding the way, and the parents get physical. So a lot happens at home. Also, we have children dropping out because maybe the parents prioritize, of course, them being alive. They go into farming. And that means that their life's trajectory has been affected. They may not also progress in the trajectory they would have followed. We also have situations whereby children take to economic, they start selling and they now look at the gains, the immediate gains they make, rather than the long-term gain of being literate and being able to contribute meaningfully. So these are some of the shortcomings of long-term, either or short-term or long-term school closure. Okay. Children, being away from school. Sometimes, a lot of times, the same numbers do not return. So it's a main issue.
Okay, Joshua, I think you want to react to Ahmed's last, quite related to Austin's call from Lagos too.
Okay, that was a very wrong statement. He said that the police are against either the students or the public. Of course, enforcing laws in this country has been very difficult when we're there. But this is not to say that there has been a lot of issues with the security, with the police particularly. People don't see it as their police, and people sometimes see them as those who oppress them. And that's why there's a lot of orientation. I think so, and I also know there are a lot of platforms out there where you can easily make such report. And police, I know up to now, has one of the best, well-defined ways of taking those boys out and meted punishment. And some of them dismissed. But this is not to say that this is still ongoing. So members of the public should raise alarm when there are unacceptable behavior in policing any community, and anyone that has come across such kind of thing should report and follow that process. And I can assure you that I'm sure they're going to do something.
Okay, before we take the next line of reports, let's take this caller from Port Harcourt. I hear Agu is calling from Port Harcourt. Hello, Agu.
Hello.
Good evening, Agu. Go ahead, please.
Will I go ahead?
Go ahead, please, Agu.
Okay. I've watched the program on introduction today. Hello?
Go ahead, Agu. Can hear you, please. Go ahead.
Okay. On the introduction to the school health and education executives openly narrated their security strategies. I take objection to this because security strategies exposed to the culprits are no more secret. Few days ago, I listened to the governor of Niger State. According to him, in 2015, he inherited schools with depleted structures, namely no fencing. If the governor could secure himself adequately, why did he find it unnecessary to fence the schools he inherited since 2015? What is security? DIG, Habila, Josasa, you were a Port Harcourt River State and can testify the importance of PTA. There is a synergy between the community where schools are cited and the school's authority. That this act of terrorism, kidnapping of innocent pupils and students, can easily be exposed. The people's students kidnapped are their own children, yet they refuse to alert the authorities of such heinous acts or crimes. Our brothers and sisters in the north should be aware that whatever benefits they get from kidnapping are very temporary and can never equate with the lives of these innocent children. Our sister Judith Giwa, how long will your laudable programs continue to be on the drawing board? Education is on both executive and the concurrent list. Why have you been so procrastinating. Naturally, states and the nation, the education agency should be involved to enlighten the communities where the schools are sited. Both the churches and the mosques should also be involved so that they enlighten the people and tell the need that the students should be protected. Above all, the schools should be fenced and adequate security should be provided for the schools, not exposing them. Do what you can do. I was a PTA chairman for years. I know what I did. Joseph Hattaki was in Port Harcourt. I'm a PTA. He knows what we did that we make this area to be conducive. Thank you. God bless all of you.
Thank you so much. That caller came from Port Harcourt. Maybe I will want to allow Professor Alemika to react to the last caller.
I think the caller basically raised two issues. One, of course, that the strategies that people are going to explore should not necessarily be discussed on the street or openly. That is neither here or there. There are times when not the full detail, maybe not even the parameter, when you engage in psychological operations whereby you let people know that you are waiting for them. And sometimes some group actually may reconsider their position. But I think it's valid that there is need for strategy, and those strategies should be implemented without not just being an advertisement. And the second thing he says about the community, I think you yourself had mentioned this repeatedly about the role of the community and how the community can be sensitized. I think that is also what ideally should happen. But I think generally we have this disconnect. I think since we have a lot of erosion of public service ethics, where those of us who are public service officials do not see ourselves as primarily responsible for serving citizens, but rather serving ourselves, the community also seems to have lost what traditionally appear to be the spirit for community service and community coherence. And therefore, there is very little, we shouldn't take it for granted that communities are willing even to defend school in their community. They might just see as government schools and not their own. So the disconnect between what might call governance and the people is a major constraint that we're encountering in whatever measures we're going to intend to take. And we must factor them in. How will government, what measures do we need to take for government to regain the people's confidence? And also to remobilize them around them being interested in community development. In the past, we all know how many, I wish we have the statistics, how many community built schools or health facilities for themselves, say maybe 3 decades ago and 2 decades ago, and compare what happens today. You hardly find a lot of those community driven projects at those level of basic human development services of education, healthcare, as used to be. So there is also erosion of community value and cohesion. So we're really in a serious problem, but we must keep trying. We have national orientation agencies across 174 local governments. And I think it's one way for government to find, to try to reconnect with the people in a very genuine way by responding to their needs, responding to their aspiration and interests. I think also when people talk about the relation between the police and the public, it's a very difficult challenge for both the citizen and the police. I think because of the history of the relationship, there is also the tendency for police to see the public as enemy and the public to see the police as enemy. And we need to be able to also establish all kinds of mechanisms to be able to deal with this matter. We know, I think we don't have to deceive ourselves. We know that a lot of us, most of us, do not want to obey laws in this country. Simple traffic laws, we do not want to obey them. And we do not want to be challenged. We don't want to be, confronted by any officials for our irresponsible behavior. And of course, the law enforcement agencies also don't adopt strategies that are civil in trying to hold us accountable for our behavior. So again, that's why I think many of our problems are actually a crisis of erosion of values. And until we're able to reinstate those erosion of values, all the hard, measures we are taking will not work. The whole terrorism, banditry is an indication of those erosion of values. So I think the community also need to be mobilized, but we also know their present capacity, their present disengagement from one another, measured by the number of community, intercommunal and intracommunal conflicts that we have across the country. So those must be taken in any measure that is going to be focusing on just the community.
Let's take the last set of reports coming from Asaba, Delta, Lafia, and Ibadan. And from Delta, that is Asaba precisely, it is said for some time now, security of students have not been guaranteed by schools, as several cases of kidnap of students within the school premises have been recorded lately. Let's take a listen.
Security of students put in school's care is gradually becoming a challenge, as school is meant to be a safe haven for students. Therefore, parents need not to worry about the safety of their children and wards while they are in school. Sometime in 2014, 276 girls were adopted from government secondary school in Borno State by suspected bandits. Just recently, a government secondary school, Kangara, in Niger State, also had its nightmarish share as suspected bandits adopted students. The recent adoptions are yet another tragic reminder of the security challenges that persist and how schools have remained a target for armed groups.
We heard of the Chibok girls years ago, and it followed with a whole lot of others. And today, beyond the Kankara issues in terms of adoption of our wards in their schools and in their hostels, we are talking about the future leaders of tomorrow.
The effect is adverse on society and the school system, so we should try to put an end to insecurity and kidnapping in schools.
It was advised that certain parameters should be put in place in order to checkmate the school environment and prevent loopholes that will enable the bandits to have their ways.
What the terrorists want, what these criminals or bandits want is, they want media attention. So the press must play down the publicity we give to them.
The issue of insecurity is a collective responsibility. However, all as sundry have once again been urged to join hands with government to curb the menace. In order to get it right, they say schools should organize occasional orientation programs for parents towards student security and safety. Schools should be flexible with their policies.
This report's coming from Lafia, Nasarawa State, and it says efforts at securing schools are being strengthened through community engagements and information sharing. I think that came off from Professor Alimeka.
With the frequent adoption of school children in some parts of the country, government at all levels have been adopting strategies towards provision of security to lives and property. Nasarawa State shares its own security challenges ranging from herders-farmers conflicts, armed robbery, communal crisis, rape cases, banditry, adoption and vandalism of public property, among other crimes and criminalities. However, with the recent adoption of school children in some parts of the country, Nasarawa State government has been adopting different approaches and strategies through regular security meetings in addition to meetings with neighboring states to checkmate influx of criminals and arms into the state. The Commissioner of Police says in order to adopt and adequately protect school children against dangers, it has become pertinent on parents, community leaders and school management to adopt strategies with stringent measures and perimeter fencing of schools to contain breach of security. 3 special constables have been trained. We have deployed them. They are going to mingle with their people. And then we are going to make use of the community policing.
The traditional rulers in our areas that this is what is happening. It should also help us in passing the information in the mosques and the churches within the religion.
That will be picking your children. If at all that child is not following school bus, the identity of that person should be made known to the school.
Security experts believe that community engagement and surveillance will go a long way in averting security threats.
The last report on the program tonight is coming from Ibadan, and it examines critically ways to prevent breach of security across schools in Oyo State. And it says that the increasing cases of school children being kidnapped has necessitated the call for more proactive security measures around school communities and the country.
Despite efforts by government at the various levels and security agencies at containing the spirit of criminal activities, especially abduction for ransom packages, kidnappers still remain potent threat to school authorities, families, stakeholders, and the entire nation as the act of kidnapping continue to increase with impunity. With most schools being vulnerable to activities of bandits and other criminal elements due to their locations, stakeholders advise that host communities of the schools be more vigilant and improve security in their areas to curb the trend of abductions in the country.
For community leaders, men, women, youth, to focus their attention on securing the safety of our pupils in schools. The government can try to send monitoring security agents to schools.
What's mostly important is that perimeter fencing is highly essential for all schools, and mounting those gates with experienced security chiefs are very, very essential again.
Police as a corporate trust is supposed to give service, render service. Police as corporate trust is not going to share anything but good service as dividend. It is important to discharge yourself, and ably well so, for what we are and what we do.
Oyo State government has instructed the Southwest Security Network to complement the effort of the police and other security agencies towards ensuring protection of lives and property in the state.
Thanks so much for the reports coming from Delta, Lafia, Nasarawa State, and Ibadan, Oyo State. Let me begin this aspect with Joshak. Quite disturbingly, listening to the Niger State governor a couple of days ago when the passengers for the Niger State Transport Company were released. You see how touched, how overwhelmed he was in terms of what next to do. And that leads me to the next question. In all this, must we always announce our security strategy to the public before we act? Because it looks as though most times this helps even the bandits or the captors or the alleged criminals to take otherwise steps before even the action is taken.
No, it's not right. It's not right to disclose the way to go. It's not right to share your plans and what you intend to do to the public, because of course that will aid criminals. But like I said, you know, the purpose of government is security and welfare. And I think that the state government should be able to prioritize, you know, security. And like I told you, it's very, very expensive. Once you plug in money, you are not going to see just a physical result. But yet, a lot of job has been done. And I think the writers of our constitution did well by saying welfare and security shall be the main purpose of government. And in saying that, I want to say the only way out, or one of the ways that we must follow, is to ensure that you prioritize security. And you are likely to get a lot of people and a lot of suggestions, security gadgets. If you invest in security, you are likely to have a lot of those that have security knowledge about security, those of them that have been in the security and out, the military and what have you, in every local or locality. And so I think we should ensure that we take the security of our village, the security of our state, and the security of our environment, particularly schools and others, very, very serious. We'll be able to surmount that.
Okay, you go to some schools, for instance, you find a security operative deployed in that school. he looks haggard, worn out. Does that mean that is taking security as priority?
That could be somebody they just picked on the street.
Because listen to the Commissioner of Police from Oyo State. He's talking about they need to have security. One of the respondents from Ibadan talking about trained and experienced security operatives.
We like I said, if we take security serious, and if we know that it's a constitutional responsibility, then we will get somewhere. All this can stop. We can check this to the barest minimum. But if you don't pause to know exactly what to do, and in every state we have a lot of people that have been exposed to security for years, they will be able to give solutions that will work. If we don't do that, then we're in for a lot of problems.
Okay, let me go to George before I come to Judith again, where Professor Lemika is joining us via Zoom. Prof, I want to take my question this way to you. At the launch of the Safe Our Schools initiative, and maybe later on the signing of the, is it treaty or MOU of the Safe Schools Declaration, of endorsement of Safe School Declaration, the British Prime Minister then, Gordon Brown, recognized the need to take action following repeated attacks against educational institutions in Nigeria. By way of maybe your closing thoughts, how will you conclude this and unravel this?
I think we need to take measures very urgently. Those measures must be in the short, medium, and long term. And I think in the short term, we need to rethink about how to efficiently use human and non-human resources. For example, I think the retired DIG had just said about the presence of a lot of former security personnel. Will it be something difficult simply just to introduce something we might call joint security service reserve in each of the local governments? And what you do is bring all the servicemen in under one umbrella as a reserve, and then give them reorientation, retraining because they've left the place. They're not necessarily all of them going to carry weapons or those, but they will be able to manage intelligent information and then engagement of communities. And that's what I said, we need to have everything. I'm afraid we might still be using the old tactics of fire brigade. When there is a problem, we address it in fire brigade manner, close the schools, do this, do that, and then where people with short attention span, 3 weeks later we've forgotten again, we've moved on, and it repeats itself, we never learn from the other one. So I think we should begin to create environment for using resources. What are the human and non-human resources at the community levels, at the local government levels that can be mobilized on a sustainable basis to contribute to safety, not just of schools, but of our communities? Again, we need a rethink. We cannot continue to use the old method and expect to have a new result, more especially to use the same method in peacetime for what is virtually a wartime situation as we have it.
Alimeka, before I let you go, what's your word of caution or advice to the communities and the natural rulers?
Yeah, I think the communities need to re-engage themselves. There's a lot, in our communities, there are a lot of distrust. There are a lot of fault line that they even can't, operate in a very coherent manner. There are, so I think there is, if you like, a reconstruction of community spirit in order to defend themselves and use the resources that they have within those communities. There are traditional hunters and the rest of them that in a way can serve some purposes within the small rural communities. And of course, along with the some kind of, in many local government, there's actually a local government-wide hunters associations. Those are the kind of thing, again, the community can use as the first level of defense for their community. So again, it's re-engaging, in some cases, rediscovery of what works in the past and how to transform them to meet, current challenges.
Tanebi Alemika. It was nice having you on Tuesday Live tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Professor Alemika joined us via Zoom from Jos. He's the professor of criminology in the University of Jos. Well, back in Abuja, Judith, you gave us at the beginning a robust plan within the framework of the Save Our School Declaration, right? And Nigeria is fully involved in it. Yes. It's an emergency, more or less. And from the reactions from the public, the reports you've seen across the country, people are really worried. They want action to be taken. But you said we're about to go into implementation. Given this, should we still follow it gradually, or we need to really jack up the process?
I want to say that we need to actually jack it up. And how do we jack it up? Education remains on the concurrent list. So the governors are the ones that reserve the right to prioritize. This is our call for the state governors to actually prioritize ensuring, taking this responsibility to make sure that schools are kept safe and secured. This, what has happened in Kankara and Kangara, are actually a call. It's already an advocacy on its own. What are they doing? They need to be on board to take on some of these measures that will ensure that at the end of the day, the target of ensuring that the children are protected, and that not only the children, education as it were. So we're talking of the assets, because you know there's meager budget for it. We're talking about the humans, the education administrators, the learners, and the students are well protected to be able to confidently take education in the school. So we are calling on, through this policy, it's time, it's a wake-up call for everyone to marshal. And we're not just talking of one measure, we're talking of, multiple-pronged approach, whereby all these different measures are going on simultaneously, so that the ones that address the children, the ones that address the community, the ones that address the local government, they're all happening at the same time.
Well, I imagine maybe a head teacher or a teacher or pupil or a student saying, I'm here to learn. A teacher say, I'm here to impart knowledge. And the head teacher say, I'm just here to administrate the school. What concerns me about security? So as it is now, will you say it's a collective responsibility, or we should still be functioning in silos?
No, I think that the time has come for that to be mainstreamed in any... So children have to be taught alongside with what they are being taught. Disaster risk must be mainstreamed. The teachers, it has come to the level whereby, apart from the pre-service teachers, they must have programs that prepare them to deliver in emergency situations, to deliver psychosocial support for the children to be able to, mentally be in a good, in a good place for them to absorb and concentrate on education. So it has come to stay, and this disaster risk reduction must be mainstreamed into even for the in-service teachers, when they do the continuous professional development, it must be mainstreamed, because it appears to have come to stay. So that naturally when they are delivering, when they are supplying education, it's part of the delivery.
Joshua, well, by way of, I deliberately stayed away from it, but Professor Alemika raised it, talking about, most times they say insider arrangements. Let's scratch that a bit. Sometimes when this happens, they say it takes the rat inside the house to invite the rat outside the house. How do you react to this?
Yes, it's true that there could be, because some of the people whom we've engaged are security men, not the well-defined ones, not the one from the government, have a very, very doubtful background. And people do not care to check their background, and people do not also put eyes on them, because you will always see through the way they carry on with their activities that this one is likely to be a sellout. And so we must be very careful in getting people to help us as security or whatever capacity in our homes, in schools. We must do a good screen and background check, because it is true that a lot of them compromise and also become informants to this criminal, and ask them to come when they think they will be able to beat that. And that's why they've always succeeded.
Well, But by way of reassurance, one or two callers, I think from either Lagos or Port Harcourt, one was very particular about your name. Apparently you have served in Rivers State for a reasonable amount of time.
Yes,
what word of reassurance would you give to the public by way of maybe restoring the confidence they should have in security agencies, not particularly police now, though their concern was particularly about the police?
Yes. Well, one, I would say there are states that have taken some steps to improve the security of their state and environment. And you could see that the kind of caliber of personality that they've brought in, I think is paying off in terms of assuring the people that they are secured. That also you could see. And it is very, very important that the various government in the states pay attention to the security of their states and sit with those who could give advice and take those advice and work with them, because they have a constitutional responsibility to secure the people and to also make sure that the people have their welfare.
Okay, Judith, before we shut down, out of school phenomenon, what is it like now, as much as government is doing its best to reduce it? Can you give us maybe the statistical outlook?
Well, I know that I don't have the exact figures with me, but the number of out of school, I mean, before the COVID, and even, you know, has actually reduced. The National Education Digest, I think 2018, actually showed that in terms of enrollment in school, there was an improvement in the last 2 years. That was, I mean, prior to COVID. And also in terms of performance, looking at English and maths.
But with this development now?
Yes, so with this development, we'll have to do a survey to know.
Do you think it will bring it back to where it was, or it will rather improve? That's where I'm trying to hinge out.
I will not say the obvious is to feel that it will bring it down, but I want to say that education and education development partners have done a lot to support remote learning initiatives. So children are in their homes and they have different packages. We have radio education program in the Northeast. It is thriving very well, and we also have in other states of Nigeria, we have radio education program. We have other, we have the modular approach for areas, terrain that are, not easy to access, and where you do not have, all this mast and all that. You have the printout. So there are different types of remote learning opportunities that are ongoing. We also have the e-learning, which is being supported by Federal Ministry of Education and some other, and then you also have in the states, at state level, you have that e-learning platform, very, very vibrant, very, very functional. So you may be shocked to see that people still come back to school. And I want to say that even for the adult education, parents, because the children are at home, they are also picking up. So because we have the non-formal and we also have mass literacy, adult mass literacy, so you may be shocked to see that more people are, being engaged and are still attracted to education. So it will be really interesting to do an assessment and evaluation after this to say, okay, really, did we have dropouts, or did we have people that actually stayed on, and even whether we had extra people coming on board.
Okay, and finally, most times we wait until something comes to our doorstep before we act.
Yes.
I remember during Ebola, President Obama then said, if we don't wake up to nip this in the bud, it will come from West Africa into North Africa and reach us here.
Yes.
So let's take a step and nip Ebola in the bud. It's possible most parts of the country will say this banditry is a northern thing, and they are relaxed. What actions should other parts of the country be taking ahead of or to ward it off completely?
Sometimes it's true to say that you cannot claim to ward off this criminality, but you can reduce it to the barest minimum. Like I said, Nigeria has the capacity to completely dump in, to completely put to check some of these criminalities very, very well. Let all the security agencies, the military and others, work on at the same point and share ideas and you know, come together and look at each other's role as complementary and very important. And if that is done, I am very sure that we'll reduce these security challenges to its barest minimum.
Thank you so much. Let me begin with you, Joshak Habila, former Deputy Inspector General of Police, in charge of operations. It was nice having you on the program, and always a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Judith Giwa Amu, with UNICEF Education. I can't specifically say what, but we thank you so much for your depth of knowledge, and we hope and believe maybe this policy takes off and it gets implemented very soon. It was nice having you on the program.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much. That is on Tuesday Live. Thank you for your calls and your inputs. It was nice having you on the program. Always remember to be with the NTA in the fight against rape and rapists to be a star. Bye-bye.